We are live. Welcome to the RedBlue Pod Season 2 Bonus 1. Yes, StreamYard is the new tool we use to stream. We were meant to have a guest. This is why we kind of started late. We hope the guest will show up at some point. Maybe something came up or something like that. How are you, Cole?
Pretty good actually. And also, I will say he wasn't appearing online prior, but it says he is online now on Discord. So maybe he will get on soon. I don't know. We'll see.
It's very interesting because a bit earlier, he was on Discord. He was on like around midnight. So maybe time got mixed up. Like I thought I had the same time zone as him, but maybe not. Maybe we are like 1 hour apart. I hope it's not the case.
Oh,
Yeah,
But
he lives in Toronto, which is
we should have the same time zone then because he's like almost my neighbor. Like if I had a car I would like drive 2 hour, well, maybe three because Toronto is a bit further than
it might be a
Ottawa,
one
but
hour difference. I don't know. We'll see though.
I hope not. I hope not, but even if there was an hour of difference, I kind of texted him like 25 hours in advance and I told him in 25 hours. So even if it's not the same time zone, you should kind of know eh, what time it should be at. Maybe something came up. Anyway, how are you, DC?
pretty rough. This week was extremely rough. Yeah, for starters, on Wednesday when I was riding my bike, I saw this like white car where when I was passing some houses on my bike, I saw this white car was like almost like moving forward, like it was waiting for me. Like, yeah, and I think it was that one guy who was like obsessed with me, probably thinks about me all the time at this point. And yeah, he's a creepy guy, but yeah, and he's also another part later on. But yeah, and also on Thursday, yeah, was talking people with about my worst enemy, and let's just say some of them were defending him, and it made me feel a little upset because this guy, my worst enemy, he's done so much shit to my life. And yeah, as for what that creepy guy did, well, he sort of got into a fight today. Like, yeah.
So I will say this: I believe in karma. These people will get effed over at some point. Like life always catch up to people, and maybe that's why I got screwed over for that job. Maybe that's the reason. I did stupid stuff in the past, so maybe that's the stupid stuff I did in the past that caught up to me. Um, so yeah, life can be really rough sometimes, but it's just really rough time. At some point, things get better, or I like to think things can get better. Um, Today we got many topics, as guys know. We got Rocky Five, Rocky Balboa, the Creed trilogy, and I hope they won't make a fourth one. But we will get into that later.
Yeah, yeah. I will say I enjoy the Creed trilogy overall, but I will say they not only did they run its well, they've run its course at this point, but also they just completely they dropped the ball with so many things, and I am so pissed.
I actually liked the first two, but the third one was a huge letdown for me, and this is why I don't want
Yeah.
a fourth one because I'm like,
Yeah.
Well. I will say I enjoyed the third more than the second as a film. I do think it was a better film and such, and I do think the two leads were amazing. But yeah, story wise and all the things they could have done, and with the supporting cast, they completely wasted it. There were so many things they could have done, and they did nothing almost.
That's why I'm like, leave it as it's still like decent. Even if I'm not the biggest fan of the third Creed, I still think it's decent. It could have been worse. Um, but yeah, like you don't need to make a fourth one
Yeah,
because if you make a fourth one, maybe it will end up being worse.
yeah,
Maybe we will enter bad movie territory. You know, all of these spin-off and movies that should never have been made. Maybe the fourth Creed is maybe one of them.
yeah. But I mean, I think it might, Creed might get a fourth film just probably because I was looking at some of the reviews for
Yeah,
Creed.
yeah, I saw the thing there. It says Creed 4.
Wait, what?
Oh, Creed 4 is coming out. That's
Oh my, really? Oh my, this will be bad. They
but
can surprise me. I will give them a fair shot. Like Creed 2 was amazing, I think, but the third one dropped the ball for me. The first one
yeah,
was enjoyable, but yeah,
Yeah,
and
we'll get
since
into it, I guess.
yeah, since Chillmonger is not quite there, we can actually address some update I've seen running around about the shows we cover on a weekly
Oh
basis.
yeah, yeah, because there were some like updates with like films or shows, and also just history things I wanted to touch on this stream and for other streams maybe since it's more for like Alien Predator news. Yeah, one of them, well, actually, a couple of them was CW stuff. One of them was just to quickly point out, yeah, that fucking awful looking Powerpuff live action show CW is going to make officially finally canceled. They were trying to revive it, remake it again, and it's completely dead now. And then, secondly, was that one actor in The Flash not returning for the finale because of his schedule and they wouldn't let him, change it. So they just said no.
You know that's hilarious. Powerpuff Girl. I'm glad it was never made. Like I've heard so many bad things about it, and it wasn't out yet. And I was like,
I
look,
just saw the poster. I'm like, oh fuck.
look. I my sources are not the most trustworthy. My sources were most likely like the anti-woke crowd because when it was like something that was really um really like trending. That's more than a year ago. It was trending like maybe like April or May last year. It was trending, and at that time I was watching a lot of the anti-woke crowd, but now not as much today because I can see them the true colors they have, and I think they can make sometimes good points, but they are really stupid people in general. I think. Um, Mainly because they do exactly what they ate, and it's a circle because I've seen a lot of SJW channel going after them, and they basically do that kind of war together, and they both criticize the other party, but they are both as awful. That's funny to watch the train wreck, I believe. Um, but yeah, a year ago I was really watching this channel, and I was like, that show looks terrible, and maybe it wasn't as bad as they would make it look like because the anti-woke crowd would clearly tear it apart if they could, because that's like their goal. They enjoy doing that. Um, so yeah, I no more watch them, and I feel like, man, maybe they were right. Maybe it would have been bad, and I'm glad it's not out. So there are other CW news regarding Gotham Knights and Superman and Lois. Um, it doesn't look good for any of these two. Even if Gotham Knights is cheaper, it appears that they want to can it. And they said Superman and Lois has really great viewership, but it doesn't bring enough money to the CW, and it costs them a lot of money to produce it. and they don't even have the right for season 1 and 2. The right belongs to HBO because HBO Max are the one that started the show with season 1. Season 2 it was kind of picked up by CW, just like Stargirl. It's the same deal. Like it started off as HBO exclusive and stuff, and then it became um, like CW slash HBO, but it became more CW than HBO, and this is why CW no longer really have the rights. And they are like, yeah, we like this story, we like the numbers, but it just doesn't bring money. So they didn't straight up told us they canceled the show, but they're like, yeah, maybe if we had the full library of the first 2 seasons, maybe we would consider keeping it. And I feel like at, once the season ends, they will do like Stargirl and they will cancel it. They will say it's over. It's a 3 season thing, and it's a bit frustrating because they also tease like the same person that did the speech. Look, Superman and Lois does well, but we won't keep it. The same people that are doing that, they're like, yeah, there's a great cliffhanger at the end of season 3. So in my mind, I'm like, why they didn't told the people and crew working on Superman and Lois maybe they won't have a fourth season? Why they didn't do
I
that?
don't know.
They they did that
I
with
think they're
Stargirl.
just gonna sell it to HBO
Yeah, they they
again.
they they did that with Stargirl and Titan. They told Titan and Stargirl people, and it's been told
Hmm.
everywhere that they were told before they knew it they were canceled. They were told, yeah,
Yeah,
maybe not plan a fourth season. Make sure you have two ending, an ending
yeah.
to close your show and an ending to
Well,
tease
hold
the.
on. Multi-topic. Wouldn't that give you hope though that maybe there it could be like they have a plan in place officially now where they'll sell it to HBO or have it on HBO completely now and just do the fourth season there because they didn't tell them, or do you think they're just incompetent?
I think it's a bit of both. They are competent. Maybe they will try to sell it to HBO, but will HBO pick it up? Like
I
Superman
don't know.
Legacy is coming in 2025. I really don't know. Maybe we will get.
Will work out though because I think if they do a season four, it will come out in 2025, right before the film comes out, like what's happening with the Flash. So, but I will also say, they say all this stuff, but it's like CW has never been known for making money, and obviously you're trying to do that now, like those idiots. Like, yeah, let's not make money. Let's just like go to bankruptcy, like Warner
But
Brothers.
it's
Yeah,
even
they're
more
trying to change it.
hilarious. It's even more
Yeah,
hilarious than that because the programming they got right now, because they get rid of all the scripted content, is kind of shit. Like one of my favorites YouTuber out there, Eric's Reloaded, DC knows him, but like Eric's Reloaded is really into that kind of news, and he's one of my sources, and I think he's trustworthy on that. Like I've so basically he was saying um, so there's a blank in my mind. I actually forgot what I was about to say.
uh,
Um, there's a blank, man. I don't know why.
with their numbers, and their
Oh
like
yeah,
revenue.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, I
So
was just gonna say quickly though, while you're, I'll continue.
so now it came back to my mind. So Eric's Reloaded basically made a video about that, and he basically showed like all of the shows that CW will air, and they all look so bad. TV reality, really cheap TV, not really like scripted and story stuff. And in my mind, it's like it's cheaper, but will people really tune in for this shit?
Especially if the writers strike. That writing's probably going to be garbage. But yeah, again, here's the thing though. They say all this stuff, but again, with their history and stuff, and obviously they're trying to change it, but still, they aren't saying they're losing money from it though. So at worst, they're still probably like breaking even. And I mean, for the CW, isn't that like an improvement with their track record, and to also have be making like a quality show like this instead of fucking trash? So that's the confusing part. Because like even if they're at most just like making a tad bit or breaking even, for them that's an improvement, and for making a quality show like this, even if they don't have season 1 and season 2 rights.
Yeah, that improves. Like I'm sure all of these shit show they plan on having on CW, they won't pull Superman and Lois numbers. They just
Yeah.
will not do that because it's not as interesting to watch
Yeah,
something you can
and
watch
you
on
know what
any
would
other
help with it as
platform.
well? If they continue making the show, as long as they're making at least a tad bit of money, which they seem to be doing, then again, while they still have all those other shows, and this is just the one show still, if they continue with this show to season 3 and then season 4, then it will still get new viewers, to start watching it and then decide to maybe check out their other stuff, or they'll get more funds from other studios if they like the quality of this show and they continue it the whole way through instead of canceling it. They complete season 4, then they'll give them more funds because they didn't cancel it and it's a quality show.
Yeah. So Gotham Knight is also. It looks like they didn't really say that much about Gotham Knight, but it looks like they also want to get rid of it because it's scripted. Even if the script is not that great, it's scripted. So it's too much money spent for them. um. So yeah, CW Trainwreck.
Unbelievable. That this is like the first time I've ever heard somebody say we don't want to keep this show anymore because making a scripted show costs too much money. I have this is wow. Sorry, the script for your TV show costs too much money. Are they gonna sell like the bolts and the walls next and the tape? Like what the fuck are they? This is unbelievable. I've never heard anything like this before. Holy shit, CW. Holy fuck.
So I was laughing hard, and there's the thing: my microphone is a bit messed up. The loose cable is really effing me over. Um, but yeah, it's sad. Superman and Lois is a well-written show, and I will miss it. And if they really get canceled on a cliffhanger, I really hope HBO picks it up at least for a limited run. I don't know, 8 episodes, 7 episodes to at least finish off the show well. Because here's the thing: Stargirl got canceled, but I still think I was satisfied with the ending. I wished it was a fourth season. That could have been amazing because the show was so good, and the third season was the best season for me, and also for you as well, because that's the moment where you were like, "Now I like the show." Like season 1 and 2, you were like, "That's average. That's above what CW usually do," but you're not that hyped. And season 3, if I remember correctly, maybe I'm wrong, but I believe you gave like a 9 out of 10, while the other two seasons that was like a 6 and a 7. So like
Sorry, for what show?
Stargirl.
Yeah, I gave it season 1, season 2 a 7, and then season 3 like a 9. Yeah.
So yeah, you see, like
Oh, okay.
so I'm not crazy to think it was the best season of the show because you were not as invested as me with the first two seasons, and you ended up liking it a lot. Maybe not as much as me, but you still ended up liking it a lot. So in my mind, it's like, what if we had a fourth season? Like that could have been great. Um,
Mm-hmm. And especially all the characters they teased that were like the best parts of season 3. They teased them that they're gonna have a lot more stuff in season 4.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Uh,
Um, the only show that's not a big loss is Titans.
yeah, well, don't worry. There's definitely a handful there isn't a big loss. I also got that. That's just hilarious. So they fucking tease a villain or a character, not maybe not, a but just a character slash villain slash whatever, at the end of season 2 of Stargirl, and then in season 3 he has like 5 minutes of screen time. Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you, CW.
Maybe they could not secure the rights. Maybe that's the thing. But Gotham Knight, I also hope, even if I'm not the biggest fan of the show, I hope we get a proper ending for season one. Don't end on a cliffhanger, please, because that will piss me off so much. I don't really like the show. I watch it for the podcast, and also because it's a live action comic book TV show, even if they barely use the source material, like there's still Batman lore and stuff here and there. Even if they barely use it, that's still one thing, And even if I don't like it, I'm like, yeah, the idea is there. It's not executed the way I want it to be, but the idea is there, And I want a proper ending. And I really hope they were where when they were making the season. I really hope they were self aware that maybe they won't get a second season. I really hope they were aware of that, because if they wrote that season with a second season in mind and they don't get it, the show will just become so much worse for me. You're like, you planned for a second season and you got canceled the first season. It's actually better than Naomi. I will say that. It's better than Naomi. I didn't like Naomi, but it's better than Naomi. And Naomi was, man, it was probably the worst thing I've seen. Um, that could be funny to rewatch eventually with the podcast, just to take a shot at it and laugh at that thing, like roast it. Maybe DC will actually like it because you have your own taste, DC. Maybe you will end up liking
Yeah.
Naomi. Have you
Yeah.
seen Naomi?
No, I've not.
It's not
I
that great, but you do enjoy Gotham Knight while I don't, so maybe you will like Naomi.
Yeah, yeah, and I also put the fact that I also like Batman Robin with Night from 1997 and Superman 4: The Quest for Peace as well. So those are other ways I can enjoy Naomi.
Yeah, so maybe you will enjoy Naomi. So now, I guess we can officially start to speak about Rocky 5. We gave like 20 minutes on top of the 15-minute we gave to Chillmonger. I think something happened. I don't know what happened, but something happened.
And it's fine. Life happens, I guess.
Yeah, so let's start off with Rocky
Yeah.
5.
One sec, just gonna refresh for a second.
Don't we don't okay, he will be back. We wait for him to come back. Um So, is everything all right now for you,
Yeah.
Cole? Okay. So, I guess we can slowly dive deep into Rocky 5. Right now, let's do this. I will just make a cut here. So Rocky 5, um Rocky 5. Without going too deep into it, what were your thoughts starting with DC?
I actually thought it was pretty bad. I did not like Rocky 5. Major letdown.
Okay. And what about you, Cole?
Yeah. Uh, Remember I said yes. So this franchise, including the Creed films, everybody kind of agrees. They're all pretty much like even at worst like decent or solid. Like they all been pretty much pretty good, and then some really great ones. There's never really been a bad Rocky film, except five. This is insanely bad, and I don't know what the fuck Sylvester Stallone was doing, what idea he had for this film. There's many ideas you could have done with something like this, but it's like he did nothing. This was just like, where was the direction in this?
Okay, so
Yeah.
I'll have a side note. I think I enjoyed it more than the both of you. But here's my side note. I thought it was slightly better than the first movie, but it's a clear step down from 2, 3, and 4. So, guys, remember my feeling about the first one? I thought the pacing was bad, movie was too long, and there were other issues. I can't remember every single one of them. Maybe let's go back to the stream where we covered Rocky One, but I thought that was the average movie. It wasn't a bad movie per se, but it wasn't a movie I would be like, oh, let's go rewatch it. No, not really. So for me, the fifth one was actually a bit more appealing for me than the first one because it was shorter. That's the first reason. But the second reason, they actually tried to do something a bit different than the other four, and I feel like they didn't necessarily well executed the thing. That's why I think it's just slightly better. But how can you make a new movie? It's the fifth entry in a franchise. Like, go watch any other series, like Harry Potter, for example. Pretty much every movie looked the same. They use different plot and different villain and stuff. Is well, actually villain, not really, not exactly, but pick any franchise when there's more than two or three movies. When you go up to five, a lot of the things fall back into the same kind of trope, or it's very similar. But I felt like this one they tried to do something. Is it great? No, no. But I gotta praise that they tried to do something different with this fifth one. And I was also surprised of this of Balboa, but this the next topic after five. So
Yeah.
yeah, these are my overall thoughts without going too deep into it. So let's start off with Cole. What were your issues with Rocky Five?
Yeah. Also, quick side note. Chillmonger also responded on Discord. Just
Oh
saying.
really?
Yeah,
Where is he?
Yeah,
Oh, I gotta see it.
it's on Discord.
yeah. Just let him know that's the link for it. But yeah, I will say, yeah, I don't know.
There's nothing like specific. It's kind of like the whole vague for me. Direction, I thought there was none of it. I didn't like the script. I didn't like the story. I didn't like any of the ideas they went with. It was kind of just like you could do something very interesting with this in Rocky's stage in his career, but they did nothing. In my opinion, it was a complete waste. It was just pointless and stupid. Um, all the Rocky films, but besides maybe the fourth, which was a little over the top because of its time, it I could feel some realism in it though, like with also still a bit of cartoonish thing, but in a good way. It like kind of goes through an entire boxer's life, but in this one, it's just like I got none of that. I didn't like any of the supporting cast in this one. All the supporting cast in the other ones I loved. This one I didn't care for any of them at all, or their performances, or what they did. Yeah, there's music I thought was a downgrade as well. Just pretty much everything.
So here we are. Let's welcome our guest. You can now present yourself.
Chillmonger. I'm from the best country in the world.
Yeah.
Bruh.
Did you see Justin Trudeau standing with the splits?
I cannot wait for him
Alright.
to get out, man. I'm so tired. I
Same.
I hate Trudeau. He is.
Yes.
Same. I'm very tired. I'm very tired. Like I want to go to sleep, but oh man, podcast always calls.
Yeah.
So yeah, welcome to the stream. So we basically bought some times because we kind of see maybe you had something that happened. So we didn't really go too deep into five. So basically, what's going on right now? This stream was mainly about five, Balboa, and the three creeds. We will also speak briefly about the first four. We won't go too deep, but we'd like to have your takes briefly about the first four, since you were not around when we had the longer discussion about the first four. So I guess now we place on pause the fifth Rocky right now, since you're there.
Yeah.
So Rocky One, what did you think of the first Rocky movie? Chill.
The first Rocky movie, epic. It established the love. This was before a kid. This was before some other plot lines were there. Creed was important, but he wasn't as important as he's going to be. He's a reoccurring character, I guess, because the first movie went so well. They're like, all right, let's just keep the villain over. Let's, when the supporting cast has an attachment to the
Yeah.
production, they keep
Yeah.
them for the next movie out of some sort of loyalty. So
Yeah.
it didn't have that baggage. And they did a great. It was a classic. I think it won the Oscar in '78, right?
Oh,
Nominated.
I didn't know that.
It won best.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
the
know.
first one. The first Rocky film won Best Picture. Yeah, it was. I forgot the year of release, like 1973 or 74 or something, or maybe it was 79 or 70. I'm not too sure, but yeah, it won Best Picture. I mean, it probably shouldn't over Taxi Driver, in my opinion, but this was a time where they were really looking for something like upbeat and inspirational in society after everything. So this really did the job.
That's such a cool thing to say. The second Rocky movie, second film, also good. Same issue with the same guy. We didn't have the same power with the music because we kind of knew what to expect. But still, it's like a sequel that didn't disappoint is always going to be looked at positively in my eyes. Clubber Lang, he's a different villain. I like the story though, where they go,
Actually,
you're ducking him. I like.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I think you got mixed up the third and the second one.
Is
Because
Clubber
the
Lang the third one?
second-
The second one?
Yeah, and the second one that was still Apollo Creed, and the first one that was Apollo Creed.
Yes.
Yeah.
The other guy arrived
Oh,
in
I
the third one.
misspoke. Okay. Second was Apollo Creed. Third movie, we go to Clubber, who
Yeah.
the time skip though, showing how much times he's actually fought and lost, and he's been kept away from you. That's like an interesting thing because I like how they use the time in between movies to to put some victories under his belt, to put some fighting under his belt. It isn't like what Creed is doing, where I think they kind of rushed to his retirement, which we'll get to. We're at number 4. Ivan Drago is the best villain out of everybody.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
enjoyed the crap out of him.
Yeah.
He has such charisma. It was great to see him. So, did you give any grade to the movies, the first 4 movie, to let the audience know exactly like how would you scale the first 4? Starting with the first one, what would be your grade out of 10?
The first one's a 10. Second one is 9. The third one also 9. Fourth one is 10.
Oh, okay, very interesting. So
You could feel the Cold War ending, and I was watching it years later.
yeah, that's very interesting. So I remember giving the first one a 7. I thought it was a very average movie. DC, do you remember the grade you gave to the first one, and then Cole?
I think the first one I gave was a 9.
And what about you, Cole?
Yeah. For these, I have to do more thinking to like solidify my ratings. But a rate like a how would I say it's around like the first one an 8.5 to 9 out of 10 for me.
Okay, and the second DC, what was your grade?
I think it was a 10.
Okay, and Cole?
Yeah, same thing, like around an 8.5 to 9.
And me, I can't exactly remember if I gave a 9.5 or a 9.7, but that was a close mark. I really liked the second one much more than the first one. I thought Apollo Creed was the best
I
part
believe
of
you
it.
gave it a 9.
No, that's the third one. I remember giving the third one a
Oh,
9.
right.
This one I remember well. When there's no dot after the number, I remember these. So the third one, we said it. I gave a 9. What about you, Cole?
Around like a 7.5 to 8, I'd give it.
And you, DC?
I think it was a 10.
Yeah, I think you said something like every movie got better for you.
Yeah.
With 4 as well. So 4 for me was a step down. It was still enjoyable. 8 out of 10 for me. better than the first one. So in the first four, I thought the first one was the weakest, and that may be a very odd take. What about you, DC? What would be your grade out of 10 with the fourth one?
I think it's a 10 as well.
Okay, and you, Cole?
Before the director's cut, it was like a five. There was a 5 to 6. There's a lot of issues with it, but the director's cut boosted up to like a round a 7 to 8 out of 10. It really fixed a lot of issues.
Well, now you got our overall thoughts so far with the first four movies. So we can dive deeper into Rocky 5 now that you are there. So the way I we usually do our reviews over here, we basically talk about our issues individually, and we can bounce back from each other. Like if I got an issue and someone has like a counter argument to it, we can bring it up because I think it's LT that kind of not necessarily a debate because the objective is not to tear apart, but it's more like to reinforce a narrative, if you know what I mean. Um, so yeah, I guess we can start with our guest issues. If you remember, well, the fifth Rocky movie, did you had any issues with the fifth movie?
The good thing is, I went in knowing this is the bad Rocky movie, and so your expectations go, okay, well, I'm expecting a dud. It was all right. It still had a lot of interesting moments. I love when Tommy Gunn it's ready to thank everyone, right? I couldn't be here without, and it wasn't Rocky, but he thanked somebody else, the manager, right? And I went, ooh, it hit me. Yeah, they didn't do a fight to climax it, not in the ring. So that changes things. It was a risk. We have to respect people for taking risks. So it doesn't lose that many points for me. I'm gonna give this film this
Not
Rocky
yet,
film.
not yet. We need a deeper discussion before the big grade.
No, but okay, the son, the relationship with his son was heavy in this one, right? Like we could see
Yeah.
how the growing up in his shadow. When we get to what we get to in Creed, with boys living in Vancouver, I can see why he gets to there. So this was family oriented, and it only worked because it worked. It only worked because we had 4 prior movies and a relationship with Rocky. They also shouldn't have retired him so quickly, though. That was a mistake. Yeah. Would someone else go?
All right.
So I guess I think Cole was the first one to
Yeah,
DC.
I've said all my issues.
Okay,
Well,
so
basically a summary of it all. So yeah, but also I didn't like the tone of it. I said the music. I also just don't like the tone of it in comparison to the other Rocky films. But yeah,
okay, and you, DC, what were your issues with Rocky 5?
I have a lot of issues. I feel like Rocky and Rocky 5 is just an unlikable dick. Um, basically, he goes from being. I always thought in the first four, at least when in the second through fourth film, Rocky was always like this very idiotic dad, but deep down he generally cared about his family. Like in, I remember the scene back in Rocky 2 where when Adrian gets sick and gets put in a coma, he visited her all the time. I think that there was even a day he wanted to still be with her, even though hospital visiting hours were over. And in Rocky 5, he goes from being a dick.
So I got to say something here about him being a dick. I can see where you are coming from. I think it's very funny because that describes well Rocky, but for me, that wasn't such an issue because I feel like what they were going for was Rocky not being able to fight anymore kind of changed him, and his new focus was to train someone else, even if that person loyalties, if we can call it that way, was misplaced because it was only using Rocky to rise. And when he was on top of the world, he kind of forgot about Rocky, and he was like, yeah, I don't really care about Rocky. And I think the point of the movie was to show that when you place your focus at the wrong place, which is what Rocky did, you end up neglecting the good things in your life. and I think that was the strength of that movie because they really showcase what happens when you basically lose family as a goal or as a focus of your life. His focus was not at the right place, and I think that's one of the strengths on why this movie was somewhat interesting for me.
Aha.
They tried something special there.
Yeah.
I was on board with you when you were saying they tried to do something new. I was
Yeah.
on board with you. I think that was the most
Yeah.
original Rocky. It's not my favorite, but I see where they are coming from and what they were trying to do, and I think that's part of the charm of that movie. So, Cole, do you have something to say about
I
that?
mean, I respect the attempt there. Sure, I just think the execution was way off, especially in comparison to the other Rocky films with how they handle just each tiny scene and how they execute it. And with a boxer's life, I really loved it, and I think like sure they tried something new, but I just can give them like a tad bit of credit for that. But I don't know. I still think it was just handled kind of horribly, but I don't know. What I will say though, is like yeah, Rocky, the character might not be like as good in the other films or as like likable, but I do think the performance in it was still great by Sylvester Stallone. That was a good part. And well, I said there's like really little direction in this, straightforward. Like, it makes me question what they even wanted to do in this film to an extent. The filmmaking, though, I still think was good, like the other Rocky films. So, yeah, I mean, small things here and there. So, yeah, I don't think it's like a garbage film. Yeah, it's just really disappointing, though. But, yeah, that's all.
So now that we did speak a bit deeper with the movie, I do have issues with this movie, and I think Chillmonger mentioned his issues. Except if you'd like to add more issues you had with this fifth installment.
Nah.
Okay,
Did they keep the same child actor to become his son later? No.
I think they did. I think
Yeah.
that's actually Sylvester Stallone's son, but I'm not quite sure on that. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
suspect that's Sylvester Stallone's son in all of these movies, except maybe the first one. But I
I'm
think
not sure about the first one, but I know he was definitely in Balboa. But after Balboa, it was someone else.
yeah. Um. So yeah. Now my turn to mention my issues. That was early in the movie. The sound was godly terrible in the scene after the shower. Now, when sound is bad for me, I mention it because I think sound is very important when you make a movie. And if I cannot hear what you guys are saying, why not like big speaker? There's something wrong. Like my computer has good audio. Like if I don't like lower the volume, I can become deaf from it. I don't have like big speakers, but I do have good sound. And when I cannot hear what the f they are saying, I take away point if it's really severe because there's a long scene where they speak and they bounce off each other. So that's my first issue. Uh, the sound was bad when they moved to another house. So that was later in the movie. The sound was also bad later in the movie. I feel like the sound in general wasn't even throughout the movie. I feel like a lot of scenes the sound was good, and a lot of scenes you're like, what are they saying? What's going on? And that's not really the intent because I feel like what I missed was important, and it's sad. Um, Next up would be the pacing. I feel like in the somewhere in the middle after the reveal that Rocky cannot really fight anymore, otherwise it will maybe become handicap or something. I thought they could have trimmed down some of the scenes somewhere in the middle uh, with the gun. I forgot the rest of Tommy Gun. I think that was the name of the guy.
Yeah, Tommy Gunn. But yeah,
Some
that
of
whole brain storyline, brain trauma, that was actually one of my other negatives because when I go back and watch Rocky Four's final fight, I never really got the sense that Rocky really was that badly damaged. Like they make it early on that it's so bad that he has to retire, but I don't think it was that bad.
well, I think something to say about that. It's more like it's accumulates throughout the years. It's been a boxer at that point in that story for like 10, 12 years or so, maybe a bit more, because in this movie, I believe his son is like 11 or 12, and he was fighting before he had his son. So he was a boxer for like roughly 13 years. So it's more than just the fight with Russia. It was like his career as a whole, because sometimes it does happen. Like you take a fight, you have head injuries, brain damage. At first, it's not that bad because it's the first time it's happening, but the more brain damage you receive, the worse it becomes, and at some point, it can become dangerous for your health. So I think here it was a fair thing. It felt natural. 13 years of box can really mess you up hard. All these hits here, it's messing you up really hard. Like even on the body, your rib cage and your organs, they're not used to like take tank the that many punch like in the life, you know. So I think here that was kind of normal and expected. Uh, Next up on my issues, the manager is one dimensional. The guy that wants to recruit Tommy Gunn. I really didn't like that character. He felt like a cliche and a trope. I was like, he's just a plot device. He doesn't feel like a character. There's no depth to it. And when I see that, it's an issue for me because I feel like it's kind of lazy. Like
No,
you
but
can,
that's it. He's not a character. He's just a money guy with no
Yeah.
soul. What were you looking to find? His daughter is sick with cancer and he does this to fund her health? Like, no, he's just sleazy.
yeah, and I really don't like when I see a plot device character. I don't like that. I don't like that because I'm like, you have shown me otherwise. I'm not the biggest fan of the first movie, but I feel like most characters were good. I don't remember in the first movie having plot device character. Um, so here, this is where the writing is not as on point as the first one or the second one. It's when it comes to some of the supporting cast. The other stuff, the bullies are one dimensional. It's another cliche, another trope. That one was only to showcase like some kind of story with Rocky's son, and I see what they were going for. They didn't want Rocky to train his son because Rocky knows it's bad to fight, and at some point in the past movies, Rocky says it himself. He fights so his son doesn't need to fight. So here, I kind of understand where they are coming from, and this is why he doesn't train them. But at some point, the son still find a way to defend himself. So even if the plot device character is not that great, that storyline didn't bother me that much. It's really the bullies. The bullies, they are just bullies, and I'm like, it's laughable how bad this is. It's like this movie trying a serious drama tone, and we get these cartoonish bullies into it. And I'm like, okay, I guess this is where the tone issue from Cole is coming from because we got some really serious things with really bad character in it, and it's like it doesn't mix well together.
Yeah.
So enough bashing, um, because I don't have any other issues. Before we bring all of the positive we got, because I think that's my favorite part. Except if I like to roast like She-Hulk, I enjoyed roasting She-Hulk because I didn't like it. Chillmonger knows what I'm talking about. But here it's the positive part because I still think that movie was enjoyable. So except if you guys would like to add more negative before we move on to the bright side, the positive things we enjoyed about this movie. Uh, Anything else to add, guys?
No, but also for me, yeah, I pretty much like settle my positives. The rest of the things are just more so competent things, or that don't really matter, or things that are just like kind of bad, but not like grossly standing out. So I won't bother mentioning them. But yeah, so I'm pretty much done on my side. So you guys can go.
Okay, perfect. So starting with DC, I guess. What were the things you liked, if you liked anything from that movie?
I think some of the ideas that this movie was going for were really, really good ideas. Just they were poorly executed, but even then, they were still great ideas. But I think the biggest positive for me has got to be that street fight at the end with Rocky and Tommy. I think that's like the major positive about this fight. I think everyone can agree is that
Yeah.
yeah, that street fight was incredible. Yeah, and that's about it.
Okay. So, what about you, Chillmonger? Did you add stuff you actually liked? The more positive stuff you didn't really mention yet?
The characterization. Every time I see Rocky and he's acting the way Rocky acts, it's going to be a positive for me. The What was that scene in the rain? That looked cool. So like a little visual that was a little different. We haven't seen in Rocky. The seriousness of his health because of this guy taking punches and he's a boxer. This is before a lot of the NFL concussion data and awareness has come to sports and trauma. So for awareness sakes, it was a progressive movie. Okay.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, it's
I
just too bad
like
they
that
didn't go as
approach.
hard with it though. Like because again it might have been like one of the first, but again we see all these films now that do it. Like I believe $1 Million Baby did it, and even like Goon I thought did it to like a good extent. Like you see the impact in those scenes and stuff, and then you compare it to this, and it's a little disappointing in them not touching on it. But yeah, I agree with you, and again the visuals as well. Yeah, they did really good job with at least the visuals.
And he ran up the Philadelphia steps again. So nostalgia.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else you'd like to share about stuff you like? The floor is on you until you feel like you said enough positive things.
I'm out. I'm all out.
Okay. So I think I'm the one that enjoyed it the most then.
Yeah,
Because
go ahead.
I got a lot of things to say. I thought the sad reveal of Rocky having brain damage felt real, and I enjoyed that part. That was probably the strength of that movie because now it's no more about Rocky having a fight. It's more about Rocky trying to live another life, and that's something new they tried. I don't think it's the best executed, but I still like the idea a lot. Some of the flashbacks were fine. Rocky wife was amazing to stand up for Rocky, even when Rocky didn't want to stand up. Really, she was like, "You cannot fight," and Rocky's like, "Well, what can I do?" And she's like, "It's me or the fight." That's the kind of vibe I was getting from the wife at some point. Um, Rocky training other people as a way to like express what he cannot do anymore felt very human because it's like cannot do something else, you try to find something similar you can do that doesn't harm you. That's something that fits well. Narrative about trauma and stuff. Rocky um, neglecting his kid to train his pupil, his student, was sad, but it felt real because he wasn't. At some point, Rocky was becoming attached to his pupil, his student. But at first, it was just a random guy. And here's the thing: if it's a random guy, Rocky didn't really mind training him because if he gets injured, he gets injured. But at some point, like Rocky values the kid more, and the kid, he doesn't value really Rocky in the end, as we all know. Um, so I also like the fact that Rocky Kid tried so many times to get father attention. It felt real because a lot of kids would react this way, and it's like the way the movie took to tell you, yeah, he's neglecting the son, and the son realizes it, and the son react like a son, and it was sad, but I think that part worked fine with the movie. Um, so I also enjoyed how Rocky Kid at some point says Rocky is a scam. That was a very powerful line coming from a kid, and it didn't feel off. It didn't feel off because the son looked smarter because of all of the experience he had lived, and he looked smarter because he did learn from people talking to him. That's a kid, and the kid saying, Rocky, you're a scam. It's like that's the kind of punchline you get to some kind of wake up call. You try to wake up call someone you care about, and that had some punch. um Rocky being broken after he realized the student doesn't value him. Um, and in the end, the street fight, I enjoyed it. More like the idea of the chaos and the fact that this time around it's not on the ring. And the reason why this happened. At first, Rocky doesn't give a crap about what's going on until uh, uh, Tommy decides to punch Rocky friend. Now Rocky loses crap, and he is going for Tommy, and I like that. The whole street fight was interesting. I liked it. That felt different for a Rocky movie. Um, so yeah, I think we covered a lot of ground there. Except if guys would like to add something else. Uh, there's
Not
one.
for me.
There's one last thing I would like to add is the fact that Tommy didn't really won the belt, and the previous champion being manufactured felt like something that could happen in the boxing world based on that universe. The way like Rocky manager in the third movie was like, yeah, I kind of picked and choose your opponent so you don't lose the belt. Um, so yeah, overall enjoyable movie. What would be your grade out of 10? Starting with our guest.
6.
6. Very interesting. 6 out of 10 for Chillmonger. What about you, DC?
A 4 out of 10.
A 4 out of 10 for DC. What about you, Cole?
Negative
Uh,
100.
3.
3. Okay, that's very Cole fitting. So my grade is a 7 out of 10, just like the first Rocky movie. And I will add this. I thought I enjoyed it slightly more than the first Rocky. And the main reason is um, I just thought the pacing was better overall. I think the movie is a bit shorter, and that helped. And I kind of connected with most of the story. So yeah, I thought that was slightly more enjoyable than the first Rocky movie. But for me, a 7 out of 10 is like average. It's nothing impressive. It's nothing mediocre. It's just average. So before we move to Rocky Balboa, is anyone wants to share something else about Rocky 5? I will take that for a no. When there's a silence.
Oh, I'll add something. I'm happy because I can read the title with the letter V, and I know which one. I don't have to do no tricks on my. This is the one. You can move it over. The Roman numerals get really difficult, but 5 is simple.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like that. That's a really good point. So I will also add this Chillmonger. That's not really linked to the movie, but once we are done covering Rocky Balboa, which is the next topic, we will cover that in a moment. We will cover all 3 Creed movies, and after covering all 3 Creed movies, we will do a tier list of all 9 movies. And yeah, that's how it will go. So next topic, Rocky Balboa. Also known as Rocky 6 for some people, I guess. Who wants to start with overall thoughts without going too deep into it?
I mean, I'll just say it quickly because, again, I said before we started, I believe, yeah, this was the one Rocky film I didn't get to rewatch, so I don't remember too much about it, but I did see it. So, yeah, I probably won't be saying really anything about this topic, so I'll more let you guys go. But if there's anything like I remember or I decide, I think of, then I'll say it. So I'll just say like my overall thoughts and then my ratings at the end here.
Okay.
Yeah, I enjoyed this film. I thought it was definitely an improvement. I do think it is yeah. So this is the 6 out of 6 Rocky films here. I do think it's the second weakest, besides the fifth. I do like the other 4 better before it, but I do think it's a good film. So yeah.
Okay, I guess the next stop would be Chillmonger. He looks excited to speak about Balboa.
I'm more excited. Let's start with diversity. In the boxing world, it's not just white guy, white guy. There are, but it's not always that.
Yeah.
And this franchise has now routinely, now we're at number 6, and we're like, oh, it's a black villain again. They're not doing the meaningless diversity. They're like, oh, the main villain of this film, because it's going to be somebody black again. And I want to give them points for that with Mason Dixon when they casted him. The origin of this, or what sparked this, was at the time fresh. A video game simulation between one guy and another. I wonder what would happen. That's a unique idea that I got to give credit for getting this whole ball rolling. Sylvester Stallone for being in shape. We're having shirtless scenes. Like, come on, he looked good for his age. He looked great fighting, competing. At no point was I ever worried if Rocky would make the fight, if he could pass the tests, the little fake suspense over there. What else? Oh, the son. What, Robert? Okay,
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
They really didn't have to continue with Robert, but they needed to. They felt they needed to give you more Robert. Okay.
I guess this is to pretend they had some kind of family drama because family was a thing in the first 4 movies. Well, maybe not as well. Actually, the fourth one still had some family things in it, but yeah, I think that's this to keep some of the people still into it because of the family theme and value. That's my guess. Maybe I'm wrong. Any thought without going too deep into it? DC.
I thought Rocky Balboa was definitely an improvement from Rocky 5, but it still wasn't at its best. I thought the movie was like average at best.
Okay, average at best. That's fair enough. So I guess now we can start off with our issues with this movie because I really like, and guys know it, maybe not so longer because it's like your first time reviewing a full movie, but with us. But we always start with the negative because I want to end on the I note, That's how I see it.
Yeah. Or you can be like me who breaks the rules all the time because I'm like,
I can't forget everything that I'm thinking right now. I'll just say the pros and cons right now. But
yeah,
I will also say one thing. I do think this is the Rocky film with the weakest acting. That's what I'll say.
very interesting. Yeah. So I guess we can start off with DC issue. What were your issues with Rocky 6?
I thought the story was pretty weak, and I do thought that the pacing was very, very slow. Um, I also think that this, as you like to say, a multi-topic talk, is more a case of don't show and tell instead of showing and telling kind of thing as well. There's so many moments that happen on this film that they didn't show and they had to explain to us. Yeah. But I mean, it's had its good moments. But yeah, yeah, I thought this film as a whole suffered from pacing issues, writing issues, and character issues for the most part.
I see fully where you are coming from. And this is funny because I actually didn't really notice that much show instead of telling. But maybe you're right. Maybe I was just a bit more invested than you in the movie, but you're probably right. Because if you point that one out, that means you're probably right. Because you
Yeah,
have seen what I have not seen. So,
yeah.
Chillmonger, what about you?
As usual, they add things to the movie to make it look realistic and like media personalities and stuff. I didn't know Max Kellerman was in this movie because I didn't know who he was before first take. But Max Kellerman is in this movie doing commentary. We've got a recognizable Larry Merchant also in this movie. There's that. So we give them points always. Where am I? Likes or dislikes? What do you want? What do you want right now?
Dislikes. We are into dislikes.
This is the least amount of continuity from one Rocky to another. I think they knew that the Tommy Gunn stuff wasn't for them. I don't think he was mentioned. I think they knew that the manager, it was a whole nother representative for my boy Mason Diggs. It was just a whole different shift from that. Yeah, there was a time shift, but at least a little bit of nodding. The one thing that they did nod was the son pulling up to his the fight with him, and that I don't know what they thought in the son. I think they think, oh, people are gonna value it. Oh, we can continue the franchise with the son in the next bit. Like he'll be the new Balboa movie. He'll be Rocky 6. Maybe that's why they wanted to keep the son in there. That's probably it. And it didn't need to happen, but they did. They did it. I get it. I'm against it. What else is bad here? What did Cole say? The best acting, the worst of the acting.
Yeah, the worst of the acting.
The villain didn't have good acting, I don't think. The line at the ending, "You're a crazy old man," or something like that. The line is good, the delivery wasn't.
Guys are making really good points. I can fully see where both of you are coming from. So, I have different issues, except if you'd like to share more issues. Did you have any other issues before we move on with my issues?
Move on.
Okay. The sound was bad in many instances. Again, I'm like, why movies? The first 3 movies didn't add sound issues. I remember the 4th one having a few here and there. It wasn't as bad as the 5th or this one, but sound issues there. Oh my. Next up would be pacing and pacing. When I repeat pacing like that, it means I got bored. Like, it's my way of telling him and trim this one down. I can't remember what was the runtime, but if I mentioned pacing twice, it probably means you could have cut at least a good 10 minutes, maybe a 20 minute. It's just like trim down scenes. There's no point of just showing stuff that is empty. I want substance. I want like something that support the story. Otherwise, don't add that scene there or trim that scene so it only tells what is needed to be told to move with the story. That's how I see it. So that, yeah, I think pacing really killed the movie for me a bit. So these are my issues. So I guess we can move on to positive, except if you guys would like to share another issue. I guess not. So starting with chillmonger, what are the things you liked?
The comeback. That entire like musical. I know you complain about the sound, but the score as he's fighting and like not giving up. That lesson is good. There's like a quote in here telling his son, "Life's about not how you get knocked down; it's about getting up." That's been stitched. It's the most popular quote out of any Rocky movie. It's basically "Do or do not. There is no try" for this franchise.
I like that quote as well.
Isn't it? It's big. And you forget that it came from this one out of
Yeah.
all of the Rocky movies to come.
Yeah. That's one of my positives as well.
Good, because it should be all of our positives when it comes to this. Let's see. Sylvester Stallone he didn't phone in his performance. Okay, he did good. I felt his performance in Rocky 2, Creed 2 was the worst out of them. This was better. So he was motivated. What else? I'm out. Yeah. That's that.
Okay. So that's fine. We will go back to you if you have anything else to add more. That's the point of that. We bounce back and forth. We make sure everyone plays everything they wanted to place. What about you, DC? What are the positive? What are the things you liked?
Some positives I liked. I like I said, the quote I thought was good. The scenes with Rocky and really when he's with somebody, whether it was Paulie or his son, I always thought that there was some great character development, and you can kind of see the building relationships, something that they fail in Rocky Five. But yeah, yeah, and I also enjoy how this one's not as much as a boxing film like the others, but still good or decent at best.
Okay, anything else, DC?
Not for me.
Yeah.
Cool.
I
Good
did
to
have a
remember
question
stuff.
for you.
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
What did all of you think about the I know some people like chill might not care, but about certain like very detailed aspects like this. But I'm interested. Did you think the lighting in this was sort of like the sound, but the lighting was good or bad?
I didn't notice.
I think that when I think back about it, now that you mention it, I actually think it was bad. I didn't really notice it. Maybe it's because out of boredom, I just didn't really bother caring much. But I think you hit a nerve well. The lighting wasn't that amazing on that one. Yeah, I think that movie got a bit worse. You're right, Cole. I'm with you on that. What did you think of Lightning, DC, if you have any opinion on it?
Um, I did not notice. Mhm.
Perfect. So, Cole, do you have any things you'd like to share outside of that?
Not for me at the moment.
Okay. So, I still have a lot of likes despite me thinking I was bored at many points in the movie. I think overall the movie had really good ideas. We get to see a much older Rocky uh, that is estranged from his son and that tries to like connect back the bridge. That was very interesting, and we also get to see older Rocky that lost his wife. That was sad, but I understand why they did that. They really want to show how time has passed. Um, I will say this, even if it's 16 years later, Sylvester Stallone still feels like Rocky. I like the music, just like what Chill says earlier. I think you also like the music, right?
Yeah, yeah. In the fighting, in the end site, in the end scene specifically, the music was hot.
Yeah, yeah. The bar scene was interesting. Rocky trying his best to be present for others in his community shows that he changed, but he is still the good guy he used to be. He was always a good guy in the older movies. He was a good person, and you can tell what a good person is, and the fact that now he's giving to his community feels great. I like that a lot. Now I see DC mic on. So DC, what do you want to add to this?
Yeah, I do agree. I think that's something about the whole Rocky franchise was you saw the difference between Rocky and the opponents he faced. Well, apart from Rocky Five, but in all the Rocky films, when he fought Clubber Lang, Ivan Drago, you always felt like Rocky was always the good guy.
Yeah.
Even with Creed and in Rocky Two, Rocky was the good guy as well. But yeah, yeah.
I enjoyed the idea of a computer fight. I feel like early 2000 that would be the kind of things because early 2000 we had video games, the Xbox just came out at that point. So it felt very modern for the time the movie was made in, and I like that aspect. It's not like a movie that tried to replicate what it used to be like in the first five movie. It felt like a movie that was made in 2006. It felt like 2006, and that's a good thing. That's a really good thing for me. Um, it feels more real because if they try to replicate for nostalgia bait and stuff like that, what they did in the first five, I think I would be like, yeah, I don't like what they're trying to do. But they didn't try to bait us out of nostalgia. I don't think they tried. Rocky considering to go back in the ring, the new rival in the ring, debating others was like, okay, that's interesting. That one is, he seems generic, but he still feels human. He's like, I'm still the best, and I will save my pride. Um, the son being angry at his father feels real because they always had that kind of struggle together since I believe the fifth movie. Like I think in the fourth one that wasn't as present. I think Rocky was somewhat of a really good father at that point. He became a bad father during the fifth one, but that's mainly because of the trauma and the injuries he sustained. He changed because brain damage can change you. Um, so yeah, Rocky seeing his son, he is not a coward. That felt real. That felt like a flip thing. Um, like in the fifth movie when his son was like, you're a scam." Rocky training again felt like a Rocky movie. I thought some of the scenes were funny. Uh, the rival not being scared is his weakness. I was like, he can lose because of that. That's a good point where your character is not perfect. It needs weakness to be relatable. At the 1 hour mark, the movie picked up. Rocky being crippled, Rocky coming back. So I say at the 1 hour mark, the movie picked up. So this means most of my pacing issues were mainly in the first hour. I think the first hour was very long. It was very long.
Yeah, it was.
So yeah, I think now, except if you guys would like to add more, we are good to move to the score out of 10 for this Rocky movie.
For me, it's a 5 out of 10.
Okay, what about you, Chill?
7.
7. What about you, Cole?
For me, it's between a 5 or a 6.
Okay, very interesting. For me, before we had that discussion, I had a bit higher score, but Cole did brought something I have seen as well. I just didn't mark it down for some reason. Or I was like, it's just a detail. Maybe I'm crazy. Sometimes I'm like that with my issues, and I end up not really marking down that. But you're right, Cole. Lightning was bad. So because of that new issue that was brought up that I agree with,
Uh huh.
the score drops to a 7.5 out of 10 for me. So it used to be 8, slightly weaker than the fourth one, but now it's a 7.5 instead. So it's much weaker than the fourth one, but that's a good thing. It's better than the fifth one and the first one for me. So 7.5 out of 10. So I will mark down the timestamp over here. And I think we can move on to what I believe is the most interesting topic out of everything because it's the spin-off, and I think for a spin-off it's well done. So Creed, except if you guys would like to add more to Rocky Balboa.
Not for me, but yeah, Creed. Yeah, I have a lot to say about the two sequels to the first Creed. Good and bad, definitely. I definitely still. There's no, besides the fifth Rocky film, there's none in the entire franchise out of nine that I don't like. I think all of them are at least like decent or solid, but there's definitely a mixed bag of pros and cons in the second and third for me personally. But with the first one, oh, I thought this was excellent, and I loved just the all the character dynamics. I believe Tessa Thompson's character, I believe who played her with Sylvester Stallone, Michael B. Jordan. I loved all that. I loved the tone. I loved the pacing of it. I loved the direction. I loved the visuals, just all that stuff. And yeah, it was really fantastic for me. Where I'd probably rank this without giving my rating, it would probably be out of the entire franchise of 9 films, probably my third favorite, just below the first and second Rocky.
I can see where you are coming from. So I don't have any side note, but I do remember being really surprised on how good and it felt new. Um, I was like, okay, Creed is a spin-off, and we know it sometimes spin-off don't do well, and sometimes spin-off are just like a way to milk out a franchise with new characters you're like meant to be liking by default. But I feel like here it was interesting. It was very interesting. I really enjoyed that spin-off, and that these are my overall thought without going too deep into it. What are your overall thought, Chillmonger, without going too deep into it, of course?
I'm happy that they executed what they executed. They went in trying to further this to make more movies, and they did. There's there's a couple of deaths that happened prior, and some of those deaths caused caused for the death trope to be like they used that card. Okay,
Yeah,
so I'm not gonna be as sad anymore when we're talking about Apollo Creed's death. When we just had what's Talia's death? What's her name? Adrian. Well,
yeah.
when we had that death, what else is there? They showed you Philadelphia 16 years later. They showed you from a different perspective, which is cool. It's a huge city. Population is well over 1 million, so there's going to be different takes on that place. And they executed that. It was a character, but they still showed you the steps, the Rocky steps. It was a big return. I think it made the least amount out of the 3 Creed movies, but that's kind of what you wanted. And you got a little nomination also. It was a success. The mother who they recasted, it's Felicia Rashad playing her. I can I can I have to go at Ryan Coogler because he recasted for Felicia Rashad because obviously the real life actress died, right?
Yeah.
And he didn't do that for T'Challa, so he's gonna lose points right there because he didn't do that.
I agree with you.
You know?
Facts.
Oh, what else is
Facts.
there? Oh, with that joke when Michael B when Adonis is like it's in the cloud, and then dude was looking up in the clouds like.
I like that one. It's like boomer moment. Oh, that was
Yeah.
one of the
So I
best.
will say you mentioned that nominee there. Now it was a he was actually expected to win for supporting actor Sylvester Stallone, but Mark Rylance then swooped in and took it for Bridge of Spies. Do you think that was not? Do you think he should have won?
A movie I didn't watch, so I can't even judge it.
Uh, but do you think he was good enough to win? I'll just say that.
Yeah, he was great. I love how active he was, always talking, always constantly acting. Even when it came to that other kid he was fighting, the Leo kid. Hey, you doing okay? Yeah, I'm doing good, Rock. Okay, and he's always like being Rocky 24/7. And then the way he delivered the line about who won that final fight at the end of that at the end of the third movie, right? Ding ding. So at the end of that movie, he goes, "Yeah, yeah, your dad won. He's the perfect fighter. Only time caught up to him." Good line, good delivery.
So, DC, what would be your overall thoughts without going too deep into it?
I thought Creed was a very surprise, like you said, and I thought it was very enjoyable.
Okay, so now deeper discussion about Creed. Who wants to start with your issues?
I guess I'll start because I have the least amount of issues. I personally thought that, and this also goes for Creed 2 as well. I personally thought that Adonis Creed was a bit unlikable at times. But I think my major issue, and this is could be seen more as a nitpick, but I always thought um Adonis's mother, I feel like sometimes I don't know what the writers are making her motivations, because there's clearly scenes where she hates boxing but yet accepts it later on, and there's no like scenes where it shows how she accepts it or anything like that. I'm not sure if I'm nitpicking, but I find
No,
that
no, actually, I kind of agree with you there. With also yeah, with his mother's character.
yeah.
Yeah, I think they've really dropped the ball with her. Definitely, I agree with you. Like it's so much so that I don't even remember her in the first grade, even after rewatching it, because I think they dropped the ball with her that much and making her, with her scenes and such.
Yeah.
Okay, did you add any other issues, DC?
No, those were just basically it.
Okay, what about you, Cole? Is there anything you didn't mention or you'd like to add?
Yeah, there's minor nitpicks here and there if I remember, but I don't really remember. But with any like big issues, there's only two I have. One is that her, his mother character, and this goes for the entire franchise. I think they wasted her, and they
Yeah.
wasted, I think, a lot of, in the later ones, which you'll see, and you'll hear me talk about later. But yeah, but with yeah, I think they definitely wasted her. And then the second one is I do think the use of music in certain scenes definitely could have been better when they didn't use music too often, but when they did, I definitely think it could have been like edited into the scene better, like how like it didn't really flow with it as well as it could have during like the shots that they were showing it in, and like him working out and during the fight. And that's also kind of an issue I have with the third, but not as there's definitely issues mostly have with the second, but that's actually not one of them. I think the music flowed well in the second, and I'll give props to that. But yeah, and yeah, that's about it for me with like any big issues.
Okay, what about you, Chillmonger? Do you have any issues with the first Creed movie?
With Baby Creed, his age, he had 16 fights in Tijuana. He got introduced a little bit too late into his career, for my liking. Like,
Okay,
like when they showed the screen and everything froze and you could see people's records. As cool as that was, I don't think that they should have had him fight so often, because I needed him to map out a future. And then there's Bianca. Her hearing loss, and it's going to be like regenerative or something that gradually gets worse.
degenerative.
Degenerative.
Yeah.
Yeah. It didn't gradually get worse over the few movies. I think they realized, oh no, like, well, we can't just do the whole movie like that, right?
You're right.
So they didn't execute on her degeneratively losing. They just, a couple of times later on in the franchise, she's wearing her hearing aids. That's it.
And you're right. When I think about it, that makes the third one a bit
Yeah,
worse because the
and
third
again,
one takes place
yeah,
later.
yeah, like
So you're
again,
right.
there's many things like that in the third that enraged me that
Yeah,
we'll
me
talk
too.
about. But
The
yeah,
third
like
one is
there are a dozen things they put on the table and that they do, and all of them have gold potential, and they
yeah,
do them like somewhat okay, but they completely drop the ball with them to actually like fulfill in any of their potential of like any of the multiple storylines and details and things with each character. Like it's like they forgot. But yeah, we'll get into it.
yeah. So, any other issues we may have with the first Creed?
Probably, but nothing that comes to mind.
Okay, so I only got two issues with this one, and they're quite small. So the first one would be the sound wasn't always great. I mentioned that a lot,
Mm.
and it's funny because if I remember correctly, the second and the third one had really good sound. The fourth one, I can't remember if I had the issue, but I know the fifth one I had. I know the sixth one I had, but here at some place I was like, it's not even. I don't understand what the f they are talking about, and that looks important. So I was bothered by it. The other thing is pacing. At some point, I was looking at the clock. I was like, why did you brought back this kind of movie to 2 hour long? I felt like when it was 1 hour and a half slash 1 hour and 45 minutes, it was like the perfect runtime for a Rocky movie. And this is funny because I liked the second one, and the second one was like 2 hour long, but that's the only exception, and I feel like a Rocky movie doesn't need to over um, state its welcome. I know it's Creed, but it's basically a spin-off. So if I call it Rocky, it's because it's like the same like story in quote. It's like the sequel or the spin-off or whatever. Like I feel like a Creed movie is like a Rocky movie, but with a different lead. That's how I see it. Um, so yeah, pacing. At some point, I was looking at my watch. I was like, why did you like added more runtime to it? But outside of that, no issues. I quite enjoyed it a lot. And now we can start with our likes, starting with chillmonger.
I like the music in here. The Philadelphia culture in here was good. The entire like one take of a complete boxing fight, and then it ended with "We're gonna take the town, come on!" And then the comedy, they're just chilling, they're asleep, and that was nice. He told remember when he told them you guys are not allowed to have any, and then he couldn't even finish the sentence. They're like, yeah, we know, we got it, we understand. Love story is organic. I like it. Good. It was good. Ryan Coogler did a good job here.
So, as a side note, I like the fact that this is Apollo Creed's son, and he wanted to be known for himself and not to be Apollo Creed's son. And this
Yeah.
is the highlight of Creed. He didn't want to be known as Apollo Creed's son. He just wanted to be known on his own merit. And this is amazing. This is my favorite character trait on Creed. But this is just me. Maybe I'm crazy. Um, that's the side note. So, DC, do you have any likes?
Yeah, I do. I enjoyed the train montages. It felt like very reminiscent of the original Rocky. The This first film kind of felt like that first Rocky film. Underdog goes with all the obstacles, and in the end doesn't necessarily lose, but doesn't win either. And also finds romance and all that stuff. Yeah, yeah. I basically just said all my likes. And I also enjoyed some of the storytelling that this film had as well.
Perfect. And Cole, is there anything you may have missed about your likes?
Uh, I don't think so. If there were anything, I would say maybe, yeah, I really like the extra storyline they added with Rocky having cancer.
Oh yeah, that one as well is one of my positives as well.
Yeah, I like that. That's a strong point for this movie. That's one of the highlights of it. I will also say another thing I really like is Creed as a character is very different from Rocky. They have similar traits. They are both men, and they don't really talk that much about their feeling, except when they really feel vulnerable at some point, But overall, they try to hide it. They try to just play it cool, And this is like the most common thing between both character. But outside of that, Creed really feels different. Rocky was a thug. Rocky was a good at nothing. This is why he fought. Rocky was a boxer because he could not handle like job in the office. It was something that was shown in the second movie. I think that's one of the reasons why the second movie I have such great memories of it. It's because I always remember the kind of struggle Rocky had at that point. He wants to retire, but he realized he cannot really retire. He is kind of stuck there, and he's like he cannot provide, and here with Adonis Creed, he is very different because he is shown to be very smart. He had that office job, and at some point he's like, I want to quit because I want to box. And this is like a big difference because he chose to fight. Rocky didn't have a choice, but Creed has one. And this is the biggest difference between both of them, and I like it so much. It's the highlight for me for Creed character outside of I don't want to be known as my father's son, you know. Um Adonis having fight in the ring and having fight as a kid, picking fights everywhere. It felt real. Um, Adonis' mother reacting to him having fights again felt real. It felt like a mother that is like, I did everything I could so you don't end up doing it, but you still do it. She like spitting on my face, and at some point at the end, she kind of supports him, even if she doesn't like it. At the end, she kind of supports it because she's like, he's my son after all. He's just like his father, you know. And I like that aspect of it. Also like the fact that Rocky didn't want to train the new star. He was like kind of out of it, but then Creed shows up, and if I remember correctly, I've seen these three Creed like back to back, so maybe I'm wrong on that, but um, Rocky didn't know it was uh, Apollo Creed's son for quite a bit. He still accepted to train him, and it's a bit later on in the movie that he learns that it's Apollo Creed's son. Maybe it's like in their second exchange or something that he learns about that. But at first he's reluctant. Rocky's like, "No, I'm out of that," and then at some point he changed his mind, and people do change their mind. And I like the bond Rocky and Creed have throughout the movie because at first they're like stranger, but they grow into each other. They kind of become friends slash family, and this is endearing and it felt organic. And you mentioned the romance, the love story. I'm on board with you, Chillmonger. Just like the original Rocky, I thought the love story was appealing. It was a good one, well written one with character that feel like character, and that was just well done. That was a good part of the movie.
But she called him Donnie, and I was too busy trying to learn his name. Apollo starts with A, Adonis starts with A. They're similar. She called him Donnie, and I'm like, yo, there's so many names here that I need to get. It took a while for it to register.
I also liked a lot Creed training. The fights, I believe, are improved. The boxing fight are much better. And I think it's normal because that movie is more recent. So they have better fight choreography, I guess. But I think in the Creed franchise, because it's more recent, the fight choreography is just better. That's one of the highlights of the movie. And the fact that Rocky, like in the middle of the movie, doesn't consider Creed as his family yet. He's like, I got nothing to lose. I just want to die. And this is something that some of the people that have cancer and stuff, they react like that. Or sometimes, even if they do have people around them, it's worse when they don't. But when they do, they just lose all will to fight because they know, like, even if they beat it, maybe they will still die from it, you know? And the fact that he was estranged with his son, like his son went to Vancouver and stuff. Um, yeah, it felt like a human being that has cancer and that pretty much lost everything. And that was the point of showing why Adriana died and his friend as well died. Like pretty much everyone around Rocky either left or died. That was a very endearing story, and through the bond Creed and Rocky make throughout the movie, Rocky regains like the desire to fight. And seeing Creed training at this hospital felt real, like that's the kind of stuff people do if they have family that have cancer. They try their best to spend time with people like that, but they don't place their life on hold always. Sometimes they do, but not always. Sometimes life needs to go on. And Rocky didn't want him being having cancer to affect Creed, which is a desire to protect, a desire that a father has. He doesn't want his struggle to become his kid's struggle. And this bond, man, that was amazing. Um, Creed and Rocky Bond was great. I liked it so much in the first two movie, but in this movie, this is when everything is built up, and I think it's well built up throughout the story and the writing, and the characters are great. The music, it's not exactly the same, but I still liked it. That was good music. Um, and here they show instead of telling the cemetery scene where you see Polly and Adriana Toom. You're like, oh, he lost everyone. They didn't told the viewer, look, he lost his family. No, they show you. That's what I want to see in my movies. Show, don't tell. And this is a perfect example. The cemetery scene, I like it. When they have that kind of stuff in movies, I praise it. When it doesn't have, I say it as well as an issue if there's too much like, you did that, you did this, and you don't really show, and you just tell you did that, it's like, it's visual. A movie, I want to see what's going on. I want you to show me the story you want to say through visual. And that's a great thing. So, um, even if Creed lost, he still earned respect from others. That's at the end of the movie, I believe. Um, Creed being put down. He comes back. Um, Classic battle stuff. Um, there was an emotional scene where the kid says he's not a mistake. I can't remember what I refer to. Maybe he has some kind of flashback mid fight. I think that's it. Like the ending of the movie is a bit mixed up for me. Because as I said, I've seen all three Creed like back to back. That was a lot. Um, so yeah. Um, I think we are good to do our closing thoughts and move on with the grades.
Creed was your longest monologue.
Yeah, because I actually liked it more.
Yeah.
Solid.
I liked it more. When I like something, I have more to say. Um, so I guess now we can give our grade, except if guys want to add more.
This is the third movie I'm giving a 10.
Hmm.
Well deserved. What about you, DC?
I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10.
Well deserved. What about you, Cole?
Yeah, so I think I gave the first and second Rockies like an 8.5 to 9. So I'll give this like an 8 to 8.5, just below. Yeah,
Racing.
excellent.
And for me, it's a 9.5 out of 10. Really close to a 10. My two issue dragging down, but I see myself rewatching it. It was really good, enjoyable. I think it's probably my second or my third favorite in the franchise. Second or third, one of the two. I liked more the second one, but yeah, it's probably that. Um, I really liked it a lot. So I mark down the timestamp, and we move on to Creed number two. So who wants to start on Creed number two?
Hmm.
Hmm.
I mean, does anybody want to step up, or I don't know?
Chillmonger, you can start. So don't go too deep. Just tell your overall thought about Creed 2 before we dive deep into it.
When I heard the director would change, I was worried, but Ryan Coogler was still producing it, and it felt like it was the same movie. I would have kept what I have complimented. Remember when everyone's stats showed up? I would have kept that and have some sort of theme, but no. And you know what? They kept a couple of the castmates from the prior movie, so that's always good. Even in the third one, they keep the same cast. Yeah, it's a sequel, total sequel. It was a good one also.
DC. What about you? Overall thoughts without going too deep into it.
Thought it was a good sequel. I basically think it's the same way as the first one, and that it's a very good movie.
My thoughts. This is, if it's not my favorite, this is my second favorite in the franchise. I liked it a lot. Uh, I see myself rewatching like a lot this movie, and yeah, it's one of my. We covered a lot of movie, Cole and I, and even DC lately. We covered like just like in the last 6 months or so, we covered around 55 movies, and this one, Creed 2, is one of my top movies among these 55. So yeah, Creed 2, really enjoyed it. Let's dive deep into it.
So I guess I'm kind of alone here. For me, I it was solid, but yeah, I have a lot of issues with it. Well, maybe not like a lot, but I think it was a big step down personally, and I'll get into it later. But yeah,
Okay, so I guess I'm curious to hear your issues. I want to hear it. So you're the first one to go on with issues with Creed 2.
oh me, okay.
Yeah.
Well, first off, let's just say, in each Rocky and Creed film up to until this point, they've done a fantastic job with the tone and the impact and the weight, of how everything's shot and just the feeling of it all and everything. And so going into this, and especially knowing that the villain in this is going and his opponent is going to be the son, the guy who literally, killed his father in a match. Like, yeah, big stakes there, and yeah, for me personally, this was the first one where it was kind of disappointing in all those aspects, in all those areas, and those aspects. Kind of like in every Rocky and Creed film up until this point, like again, there's like obviously like you have some knowledge of like what's probably going to happen. Like he'll probably win here, or he'll probably lose here, but they do it in this way with everything I said and how it's shot and everything, where you still feel that impact and tension. Like you could be wrong, anything could happen because they do it so well. In this one, it feels so linear and just predictable with less way, from start to finish, like how literally everything is going to play out to a T, like without any tension involved, really, as there should, at least to the extent that there should be, in my opinion.
Nah, there was tension because we didn't. When he has a fight in the middle of the movie, you're like, bro, is he about to lose this fight? And now he didn't lose it because of the DQ thing, so that was a good swerve. I wouldn't. I don't know about that one.
For me, I kind of predicted he would get DQ'd, but yeah.
I kind of predicted as well he would lose the that fight in the middle, but I forgot a side note that just came back to my mind. In Rocky 4, the fight in the end was cool. I liked that Rocky won, but I remember saying that and feeling that way about Rocky 4. It didn't feel earned. It felt like Rocky won because of plot armor. And Creed 2 is a what if we did Rocky 4 right? That's my side note.
Mm.
All I will place it out there, it's the right way to do Rocky 4.
Yeah, I see. Well, anyway, and honestly, I kind of blame all that on the director shakeup, especially somebody with little experience like that. Like, I don't think he shot it as well as the first or third film, in my opinion. And I think that was like part of it that was kind of lost. And there was no in the second and third Rocky film, he goes through like a lot of mental struggles and just a lot of different things, like physically, mentally, against his opponents, etc., and a lot of different like side storylines. When you have a film like this set up with Rocky, Drago, son there, and Creed, you're expecting at least to get some of that. And in my opinion, that's another thing they kind of dropped the ball with. I don't think they touched on many things there and with the dynamics there with the characters as I would have liked at all. I got it perfectly in the second and third Rocky, and I wish they kind of just repeated that, especially in the third Rocky with his mental struggles and leading up to the match. If like if Apollo, if he at least went through that, I would say like maybe after the second fight, I think that would have been really cool. But yeah, I don't think they really did as much there as they could have, and that was another issue I had. I don't think the performance by his son there, the villain of this movie, was that good. I I like that they went for like a more grounded, approach instead of like as over the top as in the fourth, like and with the the family dynamic and stuff. But I don't think they, once again, I don't think they touched or covered on it as much as they should have. Where it I feel like there's like a lot of scenes almost that was like cut or missing. I feel like, and then I realized, after looking at the guy's IMDb and such, with by the way, this was his first film. He was also the guy, with the metal like sword arm in Shang-Chi, if you ever saw that and such, and then also in the third. Yeah, so yeah, this was his first film. But yeah, I realized that they're actually making a spin-off with him, so that's why. So they want to save it all because they want to milk this dry. I see. Okay. Well, anyway, I think that could be interesting in all the things they touch on him with his family and stuff. But I'm still not going to give it a pass here. And then once again, music I think could have been a bit better, but I did like a lot more though in the from the first. I thought how they edited in and flowed was a lot weaker, but in this one I think they did it right. But it was other areas in the music and the sound that I didn't like as much. And yeah, I just thought the character dynamics with also just with like Tessa Thompson and Michael B. Jordan was a lot weaker in this one. And yes, as you mentioned before, while reviewing the first Creed just a moment ago, you meant it was either like Chillmonger or you mentioned how Sylvester Stallone's performance is a lot weaker in this one, and that's correct. And the reason why was because he was pretty much done with working with the producers at this point, and it's something, and also why he isn't in the third. And it's an interesting topic that we'll talk about before reviewing maybe the third one. Because
Yeah,
yeah,
I need to see why and how.
it's a big fiasco, and with like the franchise. So yeah, we'll discuss that. But yeah, I don't
I'm
want to
really
like
curious now. You piqued my curiosity.
yeah, and yeah, I just think this was kind of a disappointing, it kind of disappointing in a lot of areas, and just like weaker made, weaker acted, etc. In like all these ways, and especially with like the characters that they brought in. Like I was expecting something a bit more. But that being said, it's still a solid film in my opinion. Again, it's still an enjoyable, solid film. It's just yeah, definitely a lot weaker in my opinion. Probably the weakest out of the Creed films for me, and I would say it's probably on par with like I would say it's a bit better than Rocky Balboa, but yeah, I would say no better than any others.
So, what about you, Chillmonger? What were your issues, if you had any?
There's issues in this movie, sure. Rocky's Sylvester Stallone's performance went down from the prior movie, which we were all like so surprised and we're hoping we would get more of. Unfortunately, I told you about the degenerative issues of her. The baby, damn, that was sad. I wasn't ready for that, but I guess it's good if you want to talk about awareness and and bringing a new like issue that movies don't really cover people from that background with hearing issues. So I guess it's a positive and not a negative. There's some scenes with Ivan Drago that, remember when they first had a face off, and for the first time, Adonis Creed, he's looking at Victor Creed, obviously, but then right to the side, there's Ivan. And there's so much they could have done rather than, oh, your dad is taller. I wanted him like, yo, you should be paying attention to your opponent. And then Adonis could have been like, I am, or something like that. And he'd just be looking right at Ivan Drago the whole time, not paying attention to Victor. There's a lot you could have done, bro. And then there was a scene that they pulled out in the it's a deleted scene, okay? So all that happens, even though it takes like a minute to film, all that happens is that Rocky looks at Drago and he does that after the movie, after the big fight at the end of the movie. And they pulled that scene. And I think that was so sick because after that, Drago hit him with the head nod also, and they had an understanding that all right, nothing needs to be said. You get it, I get it. We squashed it. It was so good, and they pulled that scene from the movie for what? Because the movie couldn't be too long. It wasn't gonna extend the movie that long, and it was so worth it. The What else do we got? The mother could have had a bigger role. Yeah, I didn't really care much about the singing career of Bianca. Yeah, there's negative stuff.
Yeah. And yeah, you mentioned two other things again, but I mentioned that before. Just some other character in all three films, and also the singing career. That was another thing that they could have done a lot more with, and with her, her hearing issues being more apparent, and with a career like that. But again, it's the story of this franchise for me in the second and third. So dozens of things, and they have too much on their plate, and they don't really cover anything as well as they should.
Good points. Good points. Now it makes the movie a little bit worse, but I like that. Thank you for sharing. Anything else, Chillmonger, before we pass microphone to DC? DC, what about you? What are your issues with this movie?
Um, I pretty much said them already when we were talking about the first the first Creed film. Basically, I thought that I do think Adonis was a little unlikable at times. Just I think apparently more so in this film. And of course with the mother character, it's like she at one point hates boxing, then quickly doesn't explain afterwards and changes her mind. And that's about it.
So, um, I moved my computer because I'm really scared it overeats. So, I only got one issue with this movie, and my issue is something I repeat a lot.
Payson.
Yeah, I feel like they could have trimmed down the movie. It didn't need to be 2 hours. It didn't. Even if I think they did lots of good things in it, they could have made it shorter and more enjoyable.
I mean,
This
for
is
me, with everything they were trying to cover, I think it did need to be 2 hours. But with what they accomplished, yeah, they didn't accomplish much. So I guess they didn't need to.
so yeah. This is my only issue with Creed 2. So I guess now we can move on to the likes, starting with Cole. Did you add any likes you didn't mention yet?
But yeah, again, there's a lot of likes, but again, usually after sometimes when I list off a lot of negatives, I don't usually say like any likes, and it's not because there aren't any or that it does just everything bad. It's just because it just does nothing like excellent to me. It just does it solid and then does things bad or nothing like worth pointed out. And then I list off all the issues, and there's nothing that like then after that like sticks in my head too much with like really good positives in a film like this that I just consider to be like all right or solid. But I can try. Like first and foremost, I guess. Yeah, once again, Michael B. Jordan kills it, though. He always does a fantastic job. He did it here. Uh,
I think you got off, Cole. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I think he cut off because same thing has been going on my end for him as well.
Cole?
I'll go.
Yeah, go ahead.
The positive thing about this movie was the song that she sang was like when she was walking him to the ring, that that united their two plot lines, right? The singer, the boxer, and the lyrics were they're appropriate. It's the first movie that I seen in the movie theaters of the Creed franchise, so at the end fight it felt like a fight. it was a unique experience for me. So maybe that's just personal. The time when she goes, yeah, okay, cheer that now, cheer that. Like, remember, like she had a line like that. I thought that was funny. I remember laughing out loud at that line. But it wasn't just comedy that was good in this movie. There's the continuity of Wheeler, who got the car from him. Remember in the first movie he got the car keys? Well, the movie begins now with him knocking him out. Give me my keys. And I'm like, oh yeah, I get it. So I didn't get it the first time, but upon a rewatch, when you see one movie after the other, you go, oh, that's what they were going for. It makes sense to me. And so continuity wise, Michael B. Jordan and the crew, even when they switch up the director every 3 movies, the Creeds work together.
He did produce it. Michael B. Jordan. He did produce this one.
Smart. I like he has power. I like he has say. He should. He's a smart guy. He's been in the industry for years, even though he's young. Remember, he was a child actor, so that experience needs to count for something, and he's using it right. The finale, where he goes to that place called Vancouver, meets with his son, that was sweet.
So, anything else?
I like his son when he's only there for a 1 minute scene. That's why.
I'm on board with you. Actually, I think this is what they wanted to do. They wanted to create some closure because now we can assume Rocky lives there now. Maybe that's why he just doesn't show up in the third one. But yeah, maybe that's to give some closure to Rocky. But yeah, Cole, you did cut earlier.
Yeah, my bad. So I'll continue. But yeah, again, well, Michael B. Jordan knocks it out of the park as always. And well, I said the villain isn't that good in this with his performance in a lot of areas because it was his first role. Again, in the third Creed and his few scenes he did get, he was an improvement. And while he was not the greatest in like the fights and stuff in certain areas, one thing that I really liked though was after the fight, after he got DQ'd, I really liked the scenes there, with his father, and I think he did a good job with his performance there. And also, I really liked the lighting in this film. I thought they did a good job there. And is there anything that really stands out? There's not too much that really like sticks out for me after that. Like again, there's a lot of stuff after that they do a good job with, or a solid job, competent job. Not the rest being bad. Just nothing else that really sticks out. So just a solid film, but nothing too special for me. I just think it's kind of like a downgraded to the first in a lot of areas. Not a bad film at all, or like a bad downgrade, but just definitely a weaker one though. So
Cole, how's my lighting?
It's a lot better because it was way too bright, and now you actually look better, and the background looks better. Nice.
Got you.
That's amazing. So, anything else, Cole or Chillmonger?
Not for me.
So, DC, anything you liked?
There were some things I like. I liked how this one is connected to Rocky 4. I do like some of the like the fights. And I think the fights were pretty suspenseful, like they did in Rocky 2, with that final battle between Rocky and Apollo. And I also enjoyed the conversation Rocky and Drago had early on in the movie and around in the restaurant. I thought that was a really, really good scene as well. Basically catching up what's been going on between Drago throughout Rocky 5 and Balboa, at least in the years. But yeah. And I think that's about it.
So I said earlier, this is how you make Rocky 4 right. This is how I feel about most of the movie. I think we had a lot of funny scenes throughout the movie. One of the funny scenes that stand out the most is the hotel scene where Creed asked to his girlfriend if she'd like to marry him. That was hilarious. I liked it a lot. I also like the fact that Rocky and Creed did talk about the wedding, and how Rocky was, and that's a really interesting throwback to the second one. And this also shows how different this movie is from the second Rocky, because there was no father figure for Rocky in the originals, and Creed has that like father figure with Rocky because they came so close between the first and the second one, and the time jump between both movie, because there's probably a time jump. I can't remember really the timeline, but I do believe there's a time jump. Also liked Drago and talking to Rocky and saying, "Yeah, your buddy will lose." And that was like, man, that's the Cold War again, all over again. Um, Creed and Rocky exchange. Creed wanting to fight um, the Russian, and Rocky being like, "Yeah, you're not ready." He is really worried about Creed. He doesn't want to lose Creed, and that was a really good point for this movie. And Creed and his wife moving to Los Angeles also showcased that the future, maybe we move on from Philadelphia. And this is interesting because some people do move on like that. Um, Next up would be Rocky not giving his blessing, shows character growth because he doesn't want to repeat what happened to Apollo Creed. He doesn't want to lose Creed on the ring. He doesn't want to be part of it. Very emotional moment where both corner are talking to the fighters. This is during the first fight, by the way. Um, he loses. Creed loses, and I like that.
Qualification.
Well,
I,
it
I know what you mean. I'm just saying, for the sake of accuracy, he didn't
yeah,
lose the fight.
yeah. His opponent got disqualified, but it was messed up. It was messed up. Um, and then we get to see Rocky coming at the hospital and everything. You still see that Rocky cares about Creed, and Creed is like in his brat mode. He's like, "Get out, man! You didn't help me out. I'm mad." But later on, that kind of patch itself up later on, which is fine. It's like part of the journey. Creed is at the lowest point so far in the franchise, when he is laying at the hospital, when he doesn't know if he can come back to a ring one day. It really got messed up. And I really like that aspect of it. I feel like the Creed franchise was darker than the Rocky franchise, and that's fine. Darker in tone, I mean, in tone, and that's fine because I like darker stuff. Rocky was very hopeful, and except when you talk about the fifth one and the sixth one, but the first four movie were like empowering and they were light-hearted, and the fifth and the sixth one they
I
got.
mean, how lighthearted would you say the fourth is?
Uh, I mean, he goes at the top of a mountain, and he is like he's screaming. At the end, he has a speech about people changing. It's lighthearted, man. It's like it sends these positive things, and you're like after the movie, you're like you're hype, you're happy, you want to train.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I know it's lighthearted overall, but I was just wondering at what level in comparison to the other three, with all the other darker stuff and like the Cold War stuff going on.
Um, Maybe it's because I'm from Canada and I wasn't as close as the Cold War as
Hmm.
American people. Maybe that's
Well, I
one
mean, we
thing.
sort of were. Again, a lot of Russian players defected. And like a lot of athletes, defected to Canada and United States illegally
Yeah.
right before the wall broke down and such in like '85, especially in hockey.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it was slightly darker just because Apollo Creed died, and there was a lot of reminiscing, like remembering Apollo Creed as a character. There was a
Yeah.
lot of homage there. That was like the sad part of Rocky Four, but outside of that sequence and Apollo Creed dying, I think overall it was very lighthearted. And then the third one, Rocky manager dies, and Rocky is really afraid to lose and to die on the ring, and he gets a pep talk about fear and stuff. He needs to learn how to fear. So the third one was also dark at points. Overall, it was light-hearted, but I think the first four had some darker moments in each one, but overall the art was lightweight, if we can call it that way. And
Yeah.
Creed had always that heavier weight, and this is fine. As I said, I like darker story. Darker story are always more interesting because it lets character grow more because they struggle more than light-hearted stuff. That's how I see it. So Creed picking himself back up after that lose was amazing. More training sequence. The one that defeated him now becomes this. Oh no, that's the third one. I almost mixed up things, but yeah, they both train again. They train, and then rematch. Rocky is there by Creed corner, ready to help out and to send positive vibes. And that final fight they get, Draco and Creed, was great. We don't know who will truly win on that one. They both go down at some point. They are both messed up. They don't have any plot armor. They are both messed up at the end of the fights. And I
And
mentioned plot.
and at this point, we heard about the Creed or the Drago spinoff. So even in my head, I'm like, oh, they might go the route where Victor Drago is going to be the future.
Yeah, and I mentioned plot armor because one of my issues in Rocky Four in the final fight he has with Draco, um, it felt like Rocky had plot armor. Draco freaking murdered Apollo Creed on the ring, and Rocky took so many huge hits, and he didn't flinch, he didn't die, he didn't pass out or anything. But here in this final fight, both fighters are going down. They are tough. They are good fighters, but it doesn't feel at any point that any of them has plot armor. It feels organic and natural. The win feels earned because now at the end of the movie, Creed has Rocky blessing. He has everyone blessing. He trained. He worked out. He picked himself up back after falling. He was at his lowest and now he is at his highest.
Yeah.
So this is why comes all full circle, and this is how you should have done Rocky Four.
Yeah. I just kind of think that yeah, the fight itself, like the final fight, yeah, like on paper and what they did and with the actors, like it was great. But I once again, I think like the direction of it and such were, and like with the music and sound design in comparison to stuff like the maybe like the Rocky 2 fight, Rocky 3 fight, Rocky 4 fight, Creed 1 fight, I thought was weaker. But what I did like about it though was like definitely like near the end of it, and also the I also like, just like yeah, Drake like seeing the them just like walk away again. Well, when his son was about to lose, like that was a nice touch, and then him throwing in the towel, like I thought that was a great touch, definitely. Yeah, I also like kind of like the, because I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure like again there's in the first Creed and also later on in the Rocky franchise, it's like a lot of people sort of forgot about his father's legacy, and like the things he accomplished, and kind of just like has everything in stores locked away. It's like he's kind of like forgotten. And then with the him with the Creed 1 and 2 in this film, not he's not only like now reaching the top, but also like salvaging the legacy and everything. And that
There
you
was a
can see it
scene
in the
like
third
that
film.
in the club when that promoter was like, you know how many great world champions there's been? 40. How many do you think those guys remember? Maybe 5? You want to be one of those 5. There was a line like that about how they get forgotten after they win the title.
Yeah, and I think like now that he reached the top and you could see it, and that's one thing I really liked in the third. You can see it now. Like now he reached the top and he like kind of salvaged it, and has like all on display and stuff. Sort of like what with like Rocky in the third film, was having stuff on display. So I like that. Really like that.
So I will also add something. I thought it was very emotional. The fist bump they had at the end of the fight. That was great. I think Creed 2 is amazing. So with that being said, any closing thoughts before we move on to the grades?
Not for me.
Yeah, not for me either.
Okay, so starting with Cole, what would be your grade out of 10 for Creed 2?
Yeah, so I gave Rocky Balboa like a 5 to 5.5. So I'll give this like a 6.
6 for Cole.
Yeah, and again, for my rating system, a 6 is good.
Yeah. What about you, DC?
A 9.
A 9 for DC. What about you, Chillmonger?
I'm gonna give a 9.
And me, I give the highest 9.7 out of 10. And the only issue I had was spacing. And it was
0.7.
yeah. When there's an issue, when you
he does
hear
a lot
me,
of points, definitely.
Yeah.
when you hear me giving a 10, it means it's a masterpiece for me. And
Yeah,
as
he's
Cole,
only given 2 films a 10 out of 10. One of them is Triangle of Sadness that came out last year. I don't know if you ever saw that, but if you haven't, Chillmonger, definitely watch it.
Amazing
Triangle
movie.
of Sadness. Yes,
And the
and the
other was
second one.
Avengers Endgame. Don't even tell me what the other was.
No. Trust me, he hates the MCU just like us. No. But
no.
Thanks for making Avengers Endgame your second 10. Thanks.
No. My second 10 is Gone Girl.
Yeah.
He's like, what's that movie?
But you haven't seen the David Fincher film with Ben Affleck?
Nah.
Oh, Tyler Perry's in it. And he's really good as a lawyer.
and so far we covered like almost 80 movies on the podcast, and I gave 2 10 out of 10.
Yeah, and again, if you want to see what we're doing like next week and stuff, we have that schedule posted. And I also have I haven't posted it publicly yet, but I have a schedule for even more weeks, like around 8 weeks. So yeah, we have it lined out. But for next week, we'll be covering Alien Resurrection. We covered the other 3 aliens. So if you're interested in joining that week, you could cover the other 3, and then
I hate the Alien franchise. It's overrated.
Okay, fair enough.
Creed
and
is a deserving franchise. I get it. I understand why people like it. But something like Alien is just like shocks.
I mean, I enjoyed the first 2. The after the first 2, no. But and then the 2 Alien versus Predator films, and then we'll cover because those are 3 out of 5, and then the other 2 are Get Out and Us. So,
okay. 2 movies. I would give Alien 3.7.
So yeah, like I don't give likely 10 out of 10. It's rare. The only thing that had issue and I gave a 10 was Stargirl third season, but that wasn't in the entire season. The issue that was an individual episode.
All right.
But I don't give likely 10. So yeah, a 9.7 for me. That's quite high for me. It's like it's still a masterpiece. Even if it's not 10, it's a masterpiece for me. It's a masterpiece. So I will mark down the timestamp and we shall start Creed 3. And Cole, I want to hear all you got to say about Creed 3. Because you said there was drama and stuff.
Well, no, here's the thing. Creed 3, I enjoy more than Creed 2. I think it's the second best in this in the trilogy.
Okay.
And yeah, I think I liked it overall, but yeah, there's a lot of things I wouldn't even say much flaws. There's just they dropped the ball with so many things in this. Like first and foremost, let's just say the well, I'll say, well, actually, I don't want to. Yeah, we haven't gone to the positives and negatives yet, so I won't go into that. But yeah, that's my basic opinion on that. But yeah, I still enjoyed it. But yeah.
So didn't you mention there was drama and stuff that messed up the
Oh, right,
production?
right. Sorry, I
That's
thought
the
we were
most
talking.
interesting part.
I thought we were moving on to the third Creed. I misheard you. Yeah, so we're gonna touch
Yeah,
on
we
that.
move on to Creed 3 and we start off
Right.
with
So
the drama behind the scene or stuff
yeah,
like
right.
that.
So there was I believe I had something that was. I can look up the articles here about it, but I
While
mean,
Cole is searching for the article, I guess we can give our overall thoughts, starting with Chillmonger without going too deep.
There's no surprises here. I liked the movie; it was cool. And again, it's now with Michael B. doing the actual, directing a portion of it. I'm pleased with it. The villain and the take and the flashbacks were necessary. But how badly should we rely on flashbacks for a third movie is the question. Whatever, we did it and we got there. Little too much returning to flashbacks, returning to the present, to my preference. And Jonathan Majors did this role, and I bet he'd be free if it wasn't for this.
DC, any overall thoughts?
I did not like the movie at all.
Kind of expected.
oh yeah, we need to insert our the generic joke. Hey, Jonathan Majors, took his role outside of Creed 2 seriously. I'm so original. Fuck's sake. Yeah. All I have to say is tough situation there because I loved him as an actor ever since his very first role. So if it's fake, then good God, and because even if he gets proven innocent, it's gonna stick with him. And then if he's guilty, then that's also bad because he's guilty. Fuck. Yeah. But yeah. Anyway, I mean, I guess I can just like send you the article here, and you can like you don't have to read the whole thing, but it kind of like touches on a lot of things. But post it in the private chat there. Yeah, so basically, I mentioned before how Sylvester Stallone, he wrote the script of like Rocky and then sold it and the rights to get money and stuff, and also the story of his dog. Yeah, and he sold off the rights. He directed and was the lead in all of these. Sorry, did I say Creed? Sorry, Rocky films, and also starting Creed. He literally made the entire franchise, carried it on his back, made them like billions of dollars. But because of that, he has like he has gotten like barely any money to it as he should, and has like no rights to it to leave to his children. It's all to that 93-year-old fucking producer who's done like nothing. And that's also why he barely tried in the second and is not in the third because he got sick of it and is like, I'm never working on a Rocky or Creed film ever again with that director. He's just sick of it. So yeah, that's why he didn't even like try in Creed 2. And yeah, why he's not in Creed 3. And it hurt Creed 3 a lot because there are so many scenes where he should have been in it. And you can tell that they had it like written in, but then they didn't. They had to take it away. And it hurts without him in it.
Yeah, he was missing when Marianne died. You'd think he'd be a part of that funeral.
Yeah.
At least he's good with Michael B. and Coogler and everyone else.
Yeah.
Coogler's brother wrote this one.
Yeah. And it's just disgusting. And yeah, that's why you don't see him in Creed 3. You're muted, by the way. Bulky.
Okay, I understand fully. So yeah, now I know why he wasn't around.
And he won't be ever, unless that guy dies, maybe. Which he's 93, so it could happen any day.
So I will say this: not having Rocky around felt wrong. I know it's Creed; it's a spin-off, and Creed as a character is amazing. He doesn't really need Rocky that much, but the past matters so much to this movie plot that not even mentioning Rocky felt wrong.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
that's
not
what.
not even at least having him in it is for at least a
Not
bit.
even the mention of his name. They
Yeah,
even reworked a flashback, and that's one
yeah.
of my issues. But yeah, I have two side note before we dive deep into it with our issues, our likes. First side note: the movie is about letting the past in the past, so it's even more insulting to not see Rocky around since Rocky was important to create past.
Yeah.
I hate that. That's a side note. Other side note: despite being weaker in terms of script or story execution, this movie clearly had the best fight in the series. It's probably somewhere in the middle in terms of which Rocky movie is the best for me. So this movie had issues for me, but I still enjoyed it. They are worst Rocky movie for sure, but yeah. Now, any other opening thoughts before we dive deep into our issues and our likes? I guess not.
Um, yeah, no, I'm just waiting to get to the negatives and lights.
Okay, so start off, Cole, since you're there.
Oh, me, okay.
Dislikes.
Yeah, yeah. Basically, I just think again every story, kind of storyline or small thing they went for, they dropped the ball with a lot of it. Like, but yeah, I think the aspect with his daughter and being deaf is something very interesting, and also for future films with maybe her. But which they also said they're planning, they want to make a film series with her even. But here's the thing: I don't think they utilized it as well as they could have in this film. I think again they showed certain things with it, and they did things that they were supposed to, but they didn't really do it like as vibrant or impactful as they should have, and they didn't stick with it for as long. It was basically like what we talked about with her, like in like her being deaf, just like put him, just like as Chill said in like the first and second Creed, like barely touching on it, and like showing the impact to it, and also her trying to be like a artist and stuff as they should have. And this was another example of that. And yeah, there are so many interesting things you could do with that, with their relationship, watching him fight from her POV, which is like why she's so obsessed with like fighting and like being so violent and like fighting in, situations that maybe is not, of course warranted, but it because that's, kind of like all she knows because she, you know, just like watches that constantly, and maybe they could have like showed something where it's like maybe he was maybe Creed spent a lot of time with like fights and stuff and not as much time with her like in her earlier years in her childhood, which is what gave her that like attitude and stuff. Like we've seen it in like a lot of people. It's like I remember the famous anime director of Studio Ghibli, Hayao Miyazaki. Like he spent like zero time with his son growing up, so his entire childhood was literally watching his father's films. Which is why when he finally made his own anime film, it was a disaster, and it was just like copying things from Hayao Miyazaki's films because that was like all he knew and from his heart. So they could have like touched on that, but they really didn't or show any of that. And many other things they could have done a lot of interesting things with like her training, like like and I think they'll do that in the future, like maybe like how to like dodge things without hearing and stuff, like dodge punches. But I feel like they also could have like had POV shots of her like watching him fight, with no sound and stuff. Like there were a lot of interesting things they could have done, but they didn't show it and to the extent as they should have. And I think this is the same thing that goes with a lot of stuff in this film. Like I don't like the I also I don't like the idea, by the way, of like the producers wanting to do a kind of a film with her as the lead in the future. I think they should have her become like a boxer, MMA fighter as well, sure, and it would be interesting. But I think it would be better as a supporting character, like Rocky's son. In my opinion, I don't see her with like enough substance really to make an entire film or franchise out of her as well. And I also don't think they should anytime soon. So that's just a side note. But yeah, again, then with Jonathan Major's character in like the very opening scene and flashback, that was really interesting. And I was really looking forward to their dynamic and learning many things from there and like the conflicts and such, and they did show that. But once again, I don't think they did it enough as they should have. Like it really feels like they cut out like half of like the conflicts and like opening conversations and like the ending with like him and stuff and many things that they could have with because that setup there with Jonathan Major's character and from like being in prison, because of that incident with like that was his fault, and then doing all that stuff. Like there are so many interesting things you can come up with and like do that impacts the characters, and it feels like they breezed by it. And by the end of it, it didn't feel, there was a nice shot there where it was kind of like highlighting, like reflecting on him, like back in prison again, just like alone there, kind of like surrounded by bars there. But for the most part, in the pitch dark, but for the most part, it didn't feel fulfilling. And that was like a lot of other things in this film. It just feels like they breezed by it when they shouldn't have in a lot of moments. And yeah, and which also sucks because at other moments in this film, I think the pacing was really slow and when it shouldn't have been. But then in moments where it should have been slow, it was too fast. So that was another thing there. And then some of the way this film was shot, Michael B. Jordan, like we mentioned before in the Rocky films, like besides the first Rocky film and the fifth Rocky film, Sylvester Stallone directed all of them. So yeah, in this one, Michael B. Jordan, the lead in this, he directed this one. So that was after the, which is good because the way the second was directed was pretty poor. And yeah, he definitely was an improvement, and this was his first directed film. So yeah, good job. There were some issues though that I had with it. Again, like in the opening, like this is just sums it up for me. This small thing, it highlights like many other small instances like this throughout the entire film for me. In the opening fight, again when he's fighting, they have some like slow motion bits, where he's like looking for weak points, and I like that. That was really good. But then they shouldn't have showed the slow motion after that, where he like goes for the takedown, and knocks him out. They should have just like stopped there. They should have just showed that in real time, in my opinion. I thought that was just really cheesy. And there's many moments like that in the film where it's like he does a good job with that, and he does a great job with the camera work, but then he does stuff like that that's like a little too much. And then the sound design I think was an improvement, but there were some issues here and there. And again, for the most part, just like there's many different storylines in this and side storylines that they try going through with each character, many characters in this, and I just don't think they fulfill or touch on all of them as much as they should or as well as they should. And again, pacing's off, editing's off. Yeah, just some issues here and there. But yeah,
Lighting?
overall, no, lighting was good. Yeah, but no, and that's about it. Kind of just if I could think of any more, then I'll say. But yeah, that's it for now. Like, yeah, let's see. Yeah, that's what was really painful about this film to me. Because yeah, it had a lot of great aspects, but it had all this stuff dragging it down. But they had it on the table. They placed it on the table. It was all there, but they didn't work with it as well as they should have, and that was really frustrating. Oh, actually, I remembered one last thing: the supporting cast. The one thing that I love about the Rocky films is the colorful cast of supporting characters, and this is it worked fine in the first Creed film. It was started showing its issues in the second, and now completely did in the third. And I feel like them not having more supporting characters, that we learn about like we did in the first Rocky film really hurt the second and third because it really feels like I don't know, it feels really empty. Like it like and the supporting characters that they do have, you don't really feel anything for because they didn't touch on them at all. And I think that was missing just a good supporting cast in comparison to the Rocky franchise. I feel like there was none of that in the Creed 3. And because they just want to do a bunch of spin-offs with them, where then you fucking learn about them because they fucking cash grabs, whatever. Anyway, yeah, and that's about it. That's all I'll go with now for like the negatives. Anyway, I'm sorry that I like stumbled on my words and like took too long. But yeah, I didn't write
That's
down any.
fine, Cole.
Yeah, no, because I
Look,
didn't write down any
mon-
notes. So I was just like going as trying to remember.
monologue are parts of that kind of stream we are having. It's fine, man. The idea is we flesh out what we got to say and what we got to think. Like
Yeah,
that's
fair,
fine,
fair
man.
enough. Anyway, my bad.
Uh,
But yeah, anyway, you
Take
guys
as
can go
much as the
now.
floor as you need. If you need
Yeah,
more, take more.
yeah.
I guess now it's DC turn to mention his issues because he feels ready.
Yeah, yeah. I think my biggest problem was how predictable the story was. Like, really, when the moment Damien beats up that one guy in like the spar match, I quickly know he's gonna do something bad in the ring later on, because eventually he would have been at the ring, and eventually he would have become the main villain. And because they also said that he was like he just was released from prison. Um, and I'm gonna compare this with Rocky Four. I think the reason why I think Rocky Four worked better than this is because you don't know much about Drago. You don't know if about his past really, and you kind of wonder, was he a bad father? Was he a psychopath? You don't know. That's why I think the element of him killing Apollo would worked better. With this, they've already established that yeah, there's a former prisoner, so obviously he probably did something bad. And yeah. Another issue is, I think, is I feel like some of you guys said, the pacing was very off, especially in the first half as well. I mean, there were some positives for me. I do and did enjoy the daughter scenes. I think they were really, really cute and very sweet for what can be kind of can be considered really upsetting film. But as a whole, I thought this movie was a huge mess.
Yeah,
I am feeling you. I am
yeah.
feeling you.
Also that other thing with like the supporting cast. Yeah, you really feel Rocky missing from the film without him now as well, because that's
Yeah,
another crucial person missing
Yeah,
from the supporting cast.
yeah. That's another issue I actually have that I literally forgot to mention. Um,
this is my biggest one.
yeah, yeah. It's that with Rocky gone and there's no mention of him. Like, couldn't we at least get us like seeing like, oh, he passed in between films? Like, that would have been, first off, it would have gone closer to his character, even if it wasn't the right way, or at least have his character at least have a send off in Creed 3. I think that would have worked better than just what they did in the film, because he just
Yeah,
disappeared and he's gone.
just make a CGI version of him and then kill him like in Star Wars.
There was one mention when he said one step, one round at a time. That was an Easter egg.
Really, I didn't catch that one.
I mean, I can kind of see where you're coming from, but I consider more like a reference or a mention he's still alive, like his actual name, Rocky or
I know
Balboa.
what you mean, yeah.
Yeah, that's how I view it.
So I already mentioned my first really, really big issue. Rocky felt missing from the fight in 2017 since it was around the time Rocky was Creed trainer. I mentioned that date because it was like by the time of the second one when Adonis basically gains the belt. When Creed gains the belt, the fight that made him win the belt. Rocky was there at the corner. He was a trainer, and here, nowhere to be found. It's like they reworked a flashback, and they basically erased Rocky, and that bothered me so much. Like, yeah, that bothered me so much. You don't erase Rocky like that if he had meaning in past movies.
Yeah,
The sound was bad at some point here and there. Lack of mention of Rocky comes back. Um, Rocky not existing anymore is sad. Pacing. Um, at some point, I was really bored by the movie. I was like, why? It's 2 hour long. Why? Like it's something you can get done in an hour and a half. You don't have enough material to milk it for 2 hours. Yeah, that's how I feel with my issues, and they really drag down. I don't have that many issues, but these issues they do weigh a lot in my enjoyment of the movie. So I guess now we can move to the likes we got. Um,
Yeah, so I did have one thing though on the topic because I actually
yeah,
don't remember, even though I saw it recently. I saw it like a month ago and not, but when he, well, before or like yeah during the fight, when he defeated him, did he like yeah there were obviously like yeah some flashbacks and stuff in the ring to like their younger selves. Did he like use like any flashbacks and like remembering of like them, like when he was like having that fight in the opening of the film? Like, did he use like any parts of that where it's like he? Oh, okay. Understandable. Good night, chill. Yeah. Try to like DM him. You know what his rating would be, I guess. But yeah, I had to ask. So, did he use like any bits in that from like the opening of the film? Where it's like because in the
no
open
footage whatsoever. Nothing.
really, because or nothing. Wow, because in the opening of the film, it's like even though he won the fight, there were like moments where it's like he ignored his orders, or he like noticed like weak points where he could have got taken down, but he was like too confident and like again a bit sloppy there, like his defense, like him defending his space and stuff. So I wanted to know if like that was if he used any of that or remembered any of it in the fight to beat him, because I remember that scene where it's like he saw an opening while he was trying to block his face, and I was wondering if that like was involved with that. Because if not, then that was also like a big disappointment for me. I think that was also a missed opportunity. They could have done something like that where it like really meant something, and they did that in the other Rocky films. Like they reviewed how his opponents boxed and stuff, and then beat them like that. So Jesus.
It is getting quiet. Anything else to add?
Not for me.
Okay, so I still had a few likes. I enjoyed the fight, as I said earlier. These are the best fights. I also enjoyed the fact that now Draco is an ally that basically trains Creed, and like the villain this time around felt more interesting and more personal than most of the past villains the Rocky franchise had. So I enjoyed that a lot. Um, the flashback, I'm not quite sure if they were that needed, but like they were there to pretend it's fine. Um, Also enjoyed that Damien really fought dirty to break down the young guy, the youngster. He really crushed him on a really edgy way. That was weird. Um, Also enjoyed the emotional talk about the mother dying and how she was a mother figure for Bianca. That was fine. That felt personal. Um, the music in the movie enjoyable, and uh, yeah, the last fight they got was amazing. It was my favorite fight in the franchise, I think, and that's about it for the likes. I can enjoy the sad backstory of Damien and the fact that it's about forgiveness or moving on or like letting the past in the past. I enjoyed that aspect a lot. So yeah, there's not much more I can add to it.
Yeah,
It was entertaining, but it's not a masterpiece by any means.
yeah. But
So
again, with the dynamic though with his friend and like moving on, it's like, what would you?
Do you really feel like that was like fully, you know, done? Like it feels like there was a lot missing there that they could have done with that.
to be honest, I was turned off a lot by the movie by the fact that there was no Rocky, so I didn't really look deeper into is it well done or poorly done. I was just like, okay, that's the idea of the movie. Um, is it bad or good? It was enjoyable at best,
Yeah,
but
fair
I think
enough.
I had empathy because I was like, yeah, there's clearly a denial of Rocky existence. So I that was like that really turned me off a lot from the movie, and I was like, man, why do you make that one? It's like the sequel we don't need to see. um, yeah, I really don't like the fact that Rocky was excluded.
Yeah.
So, um, Creed Apology had a great sound. I wish the entire movie had that. um, I like that.
Mhm.
Um, I also think that was endearing when both fighters were seeing each other as kids on the ring. That added a personal touch where,
Yeah,
man, they show you, the viewer, show instead of tell, that they don't really want to fight each other. They still see each other as friends, even if they are not really friends anymore because they basically beat each other down. Um, yeah, I liked it so much. That fight, man. I wish the entire movie was like that. Every time there was a fight, it was entertaining. Um, so I think um, I can let DC talk on his likes if he didn't finish his likes.
For some things I like, I think I went through them. The daughter scenes I thought were very sweet and cute. I enjoyed some of the developments. Some of the flashbacks I think work well. I think that's about it.
Okay. Yukol, is there anything missing from your likes or dislikes before we move on to the grades?
yeah, yeah. Again, yeah. Well, despite everything I said before, the issues, and again, they touched on a lot of interesting stuff. They just like gave up on all of it, and yeah, dropped the ball, as I said, and that's the biggest reason why this film was kind of is still good, but kind of a disappointment for me. But despite I mean, yeah, despite them never going as far as they should with it, it was still like interesting, all the things they did. It was still a well-made film, well directed, good music. But yeah, and I think despite all this, the two most important things are the two leads in this, and I think Michael B. Jordan, again, just like in the other two, amazing job, but also Jonathan Majors, in my opinion, masterful in this, in my opinion, and masterful in a lot of other stuff, in my opinion. I love him as an actor. So yeah, I mean, hopefully that fucking innocent with that abuse charges right now in court. But anyway, so yeah, yeah, nothing that'll go in too much detail. But yeah,
I actually forgot to mention an issue I didn't wrote down because I didn't really thought about it, but Chillmonger brought that one up earlier about the degenerative illness Creed wife has with her earring and stuff. I think it was very relevant and interesting to bring that one up. They completely forgot about it. Well, they mentioned that she cannot be a singer anymore, and she basically makes the song, but she let other people sing instead, which is fine. But they still kind of forgot she was becoming deaf. So that's another issue I may end up adding because Chillmonger was right. They kind of left behind that
yeah,
subplot.
so much so that I forgot she was going deaf. I just thought it was their kid, and I was like, oh, it's kind of weird. Why is their kid deaf when they
Yeah.
aren't? And I'm like, oh, right. Yeah, because they didn't touch on
Yeah.
it. And again,
Yeah,
this is a trend in the second and third Creed. Tons, and tons of things all around these two films, but they
Yeah.
give up on all of them. And but the first Creed, a lot more basic and yeah, covers a lot of things as well, like Rocky's cancer and stuff, and they fulfill all of it and they do it well, and that's why it's such an excellent film. That in comparison to these two.
Yeah, so I think now we can give our grades. We discussed a lot about it. So if you guys would like to add more to it.
No, I'm good.
Same.
Okay, so grade out of 10. Chillmonger has told us the grade before he left. He was giving this movie a 9 out of 10. What about you, DC?
A 4 out of 10.
Oh, very interesting. What about you, Cole?
Yeah, despite all the issues, this is around a 6.5 to 7 out of 10. Very good film. Just disappointment as well, but the biggest star of the show in this film is definitely the two leads, and they do an amazing job. So yeah, they carried this film on their back despite all the weaknesses and despite the supporting cast not really being there.
So my grade would be a 8 out of 10. Before our discussion, it was a 8.5, but Chillmonger brought a very interesting point I like to add to my issue. The final grade for me is a 8 out of 10. For this movie, I marked down the timestamp, and I think we can move on to the final topic, the tier list of the
Nice.
movies. Um, so Creed 3 ends. So here we are. I will screen share on the stream the tier list. Where are you? You are there.
Yeah.
You are there.
Yeah. I have to say, despite not being anywhere near one of the weakest, like the first or second weakest, yeah, I do think like the second Creed film is probably the only one that I don't like. Like with the camera work, I think all the rest have did a great job and had a unique flavor to it. But yeah, the second Creed I really didn't like in that
So
aspect.
I traded 5 tiers, and one as a question mark because I am not quite sure if any of these movies will end up there. Depends on our discussion. And now it's your first tier list with us, DC. But basically,
Yep.
how we usually do, we pick one by one the movies, and we say each other like why we would place it where, and then if there's like disagreement, we go at the highest. We round it up basically. So if, for example, we all say something different, we go in the middle road because this is like the highest. Um, so yeah, I think it would be surprising if we all end up with like very different takes, but that can happen.
Yeah. So
So
anyway, I guess we start with the first Rocky.
Um, well, following the list, the first picture is Rocky Four. So
Okay.
to make it
So yeah.
interesting, we can follow the list. So Rocky Four. Um, so I will let both of you start. Where would you place Rocky Four, DC? Masterpiece, amazing, good, average, or bad with a question mark?
I'd put it at masterpiece.
Okay, so DC puts it at masterpiece. What about you, Cole? Rocky
I
Four,
would put it at good.
good, and me, I think I would place it to good as well, because if I remember correctly, I gave a 8 out of 10 to that one, so that would be good for me. Because it's two against one. Uh, we will leave it on top of good for now, but we will move them around once we get every pictures. So for now, it's in good because I still think it was a good movie. Amazing, it's like borderline masterpiece for me, and I don't think Rocky Four was borderline masterpiece.
Hmm.
So the next stop is Creed One, starting with Uh, Me, I do think that one was amazing. What about you, Cole?
Yeah, I'd put in amazing.
What about you, DC?
Good. I put it in good.
Okay, so because it's too amazing for one good,
Yeah.
we will leave an amazing for now.
Yeah, yeah, kind of figured when Cole said amazing, I was like, okay, it's gonna be
Uh,
amazing.
you still can share your thoughts because we
Yeah,
will move them around, even if it's two versus one.
right.
We will move them around for sure. Because now
Right.
it's just like the first draft. That tier list must represent the panel. If
Yeah,
Chillmonger was around, that would be more interesting. But that's fine. He had things to do, and he was there for 2 hours and 40 minutes. So
yeah.
that's still amazing. The dedication. Next up, Rocky One, starting with DC.
Amazing.
Amazing for DC.
Yeah, amazing.
Um, what about you, Cole?
Yeah, amazing.
Amazing. Okay, so I was saying average, but guys won. It's amazing. Um, we will move them around once we place them all, but for now it's right here just because we didn't move them around yet. Next up, Creed 3.
Bad. For me, it's bad.
Okay, for you it's bad. What about you, Cole?
If there was like a tier in between good and average, like solid, then I would put it in that. But since there isn't, I'll go good.
And I will also go good. So I guess we will leave it at good for now. Creed 2.
Ooh.
I will start by saying masterpiece for me.
Hmm. I put it amazing.
Amazing for DC. What about you? You're the deal breaker,
Uh,
Cole.
well, this is going to be strange. I put it in average. So where would that be? Would that make it?
Amazing because we are two. Well, I'm masterpiece. He is amazing. So I guess we leave it at amazing. So yeah, for now, this as I said, we will move them around once we place them all.
Yeah, well,
So
I think where they're at right now is accurate to the ratings because again, the first Creed had two amazings and a good, and the first Rocky had two amazings and an average. So it would be in that order, and then what we did right there, it would make Creed two behind both. So yeah, I think this is all even right now.
next up, Rocky Balboa.
Ooh. I'd go average.
Same average.
And I would go good, but that's average. Perfect. Average one. Next up, Rocky 5.
Bad.
Bad.
Okay, so we got one in bad. Perfect. So me, I was thinking maybe average. Yeah, it was average for me. But yeah, bad one. Rocky 2. For me, that one is masterpiece.
I also was gonna masterpiece. Well, so I agree.
What about you,
Yeah.
Cole?
I mean, for me, it would. If again, I would only give a film a masterpiece tier if I was giving it a 10 out of 10, no exceptions. I wouldn't give it a masterpiece tier if I gave it a 9 out of 10. And the first and second Rocky are 8 to 9 out of 10. So it'd be amazing realistically. But since I know it's going to be a masterpiece anyway, and I want at least one here in masterpiece, I'll go masterpiece.
Okay. And lastly, Rocky 3. For me, that was amazing.
I put it in masterpiece.
Oh,
Yeah, for
one
me, it's
masterpiece, one
yeah.
amazing.
For
You
me,
caught
it's
it, Cole.
yeah. For me, it's yeah. One masterpiece, one amazing. For me, oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, okay. For me, just like another one on here, like Creed 3, if there was a tier in between amazing and good, like something like great or excellent, then I would put it in that. But since there isn't, I'll go with good. So it stays in amazing.
Okay, so now we move them around. Rocky 5 stays there. Balboa stays there because they're alone. So, what do you think of the good placement? Creed 3 or Rocky 4? Which one is the best one?
Hmm.
Starting with Cole.
I mean, going off of my ratings, they're pretty much even. I think I gave both the director's cut of Rocky Four and Creed Three the same rating, like a 7 out of 10. With how so I'm indifferent on it. And they each have some weaknesses and stuff, but despite loving the other stuff in them. But going off of like how we gave our ratings on the tier list, I'm pretty sure it would stay how it is. I'm pretty sure Rocky Four had a higher thing than Creed Three did.
What about you, DC?
For
You're on
me,
board with that, right?
yeah.
Okay.
I personally would say Rocky Four was more better, as I put it in my piece. But yeah, but
Okay.
the
You're
movie.
cutting off a little bit.
Oh, what was the last thing I said?
Yeah,
Y-
we heard everything pretty much.
Her.
Yeah.
Rocky 4 was your masterpiece for you.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. Um,
Yeah, and with Creed 3, we all pretty much just like put it in good and then one average or one bad by DC. So because of that, the average rating is better for Rocky 4.
yeah. So okay. So now we are in Rocky 3. Uh, Starting with Cole. Do you think it's better than Creed 2, Rocky, or Creed 1?
Uh,
It's Rocky 3 right now. Do you think it's the
Right.
weakest of these, or is
I
it
think
better?
Rocky 3 is better than Creed 2 because Creed 2 for me is probably the third or second weakest on this tier list in average. So I would say Rocky 3 would be better than Creed 2 for me personally.
Okay.
No others.
What about you, DC?
I'd say the Rocky Three is the best. Um, Rocky One would be the second, and the Creed films would basically be equally together. So yeah,
So like that, right?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Um, Cole, would you move Rocky and Creed?
uh,
Do you think Rocky was better
I
than
would
Creed, or Creed
I
was
would
better than Rocky?
personally, I do think the first Rocky is slightly better than the first Creed,
But I love both of them, so I don't mind it. Creed 1 is excellent. I say they both are. So they're kind of indifferent. But yes, slightly though, I do think Rocky is a bit better.
What about you, DC?
Yeah, I agree. Rocky is better.
Okay, there we go. This is our tier list for the Rocky slash Creed. Man, that was amazing. I
Yeah,
was glad to have Chillmonger on. He stood there for 2 hour and 2 hour. He lasted 2 hour with us, which is amazing. So if you're still watching, thank you very much, Chillmonger, for coming with us. Uh, Anything you'd like to share, or any closing thoughts, any outro? I know it's getting late.
yeah,
um,
better than
so um, yeah, I guess we are in the outro now.
yeah.
So Marvel, do you have anything going on your channel?
No, no.
Okay. So thank you very much for the both of you.
yeah.
Guys are amazing. Um, I enjoyed tonight's stream a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah,
So I'm glad you met Chillmonger, DC.
yeah,
So yeah, guys can go take a look in the description below to find a DC and Chillmonger channels. Cole, I've seen you being active back on YouTube. Do you have any project with your channel?
Um, not at the moment, no. But yeah, basically, I yeah, I decided to just delete my channel because I had no use for it anymore, and I wasn't gonna do anything with it. But I was gonna make, but yeah, I was gonna make a new YouTube account to just to use it, and then sub back to all the channels, and then possibly start something with it soon if I decide to. And I do want to in the future. Again, I just don't know when or when I'll have like time for it, and also when I stop being lazy and learn how to like edit stuff, and like you know, c- yeah, it's hard because I already have a lot of like other projects in real life and a lot of other stuff I do on other people's streams, and then I'm also a perfectionist, so if I want to start something, I want to do it right, but that's like never that's like almost never the case with me. And then I also am busy with like other things on my accounts, like I have my letterbox, which I put a lot of work in, which is my official like review site for and rating site for movies. If you want to check it out, has everything on there. So yeah, I don't know when I would, if ever, if I have the time, but I do want to, and if I do, then it would just be like movie stuff and streams like this. Maybe just casual streams as well.
Perfect, man. Guys are amazing. Thank you very much for spending 3 hours with me like that. That was
Oh,
a great stream. Uh, Man, take care of yourselves and have a good night to the both of you.
good night. Bye.
Yep, you too. Bye.